closed session, and we are at item number 5, which is the adoption and approval of tonight's agenda. Oh, that's right, I should do the pledge of allegiance. And you know what? I even decided ahead of time who was going to do it. I forgot to ask him. Trustee Lynch, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry to put you.
That's all right. Who's going to do it?
Okay. Now we'll move to item number 5, adoption and approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright, moving on. Item number 6.1, approval of the minutes of the February 28th, 2017 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fabulous. Alright, now the fun part. Item number 7, special recognitions, reports, and presentations, starting with the students of the month for March 2017. So I will come out there. I'll take my little piece of paper. Yeah, I did. And we will start with Kenilworth Junior High. So we have representatives. Nice to meet you. Come on up and introduce yourself.
I'm Charlie Sabella, and I'm the representative from Kenilworth. First is going to be Sabrina Magoski.
It's always the fun part to be first. So I'm going to give you your award. I'm going to shake your hands and congratulations. And then I'm going to march you over here. You just take the one right in front of the camera. And we tell you to smile big and look right there. So everyone can watch.
Sabrina has been chosen Student of the Month by her team of teachers because she is one of our best and brightest students. Sabrina is truly Kenilworth's Renaissance woman. Sabrina has maintained a 4.0 grade point average while a member of Kenilworth's cross-country and wrestling teams. Sabrina is also an accomplished musician, playing 2 instruments in our advanced band class for our jazz band. Legend has it that Sabrina's inspired trombone solo at our holiday concert can still be heard echoing throughout the rafters of our gym. Sabrina's teachers were eager to sing her praises. According to Miss Bradley, Sabrina is an incredibly hardworking student. She is an active participant in class discussions and a role model for other students and an inspiration to her teachers. In 6th grade, Sabrina earned a presidential award for her overall growth as a reader, and Sabrina is particularly proud of her 19,000-word novel she wrote this year at Kenilworth during the National Novel Writing Month. More impressive yet, outside of school, Sabrina is a dedicated 5th-year member of Girl Scouts of America. After graduating high school, Sabrina would like to attend either UC Davis, UC Berkeley, Yale, or Harvard, and pursue a career as a neurosurgeon or an attorney. Sabrina's mom, Aunt Leanne, added, "Sabrina is a bright and caring. She has a zest for learning new things and has thrived in her junior high years. Sabrina continues to amaze me. I am very proud of Sabrina. Congratulations, Sabrina."
And then we'd like to know if you have any family or friends with you here tonight.
My mom and my aunt.
Can you stand up? We'd like to acknowledge all the hard work, the families and friends who support the students. We appreciate all that you do for her.
Next is Eli O'Dronaghan, and he is actually at a wrestling match right now, so I will still read.
Do we want to, or do we want to wait till he can present?
Well, oh, wait.
Yeah,
Put them over. Like, it says just
And
do.
hold on, because it's much more fun if they can be here with their folks.
Part of it is
Do we
embarrassing.
have family here?
We'll see.
Okay, they're all with him. Yeah, we'll wait. It's more fun when we can embarrass them in front of the camera. Okay, how about Petaluma Junior High? Do you have a representative of Petaluma Junior High? Come on down.
Stephen Schaefer, I'm the assistant principal. I'm sorry that our student representatives were unable to make it tonight. Our first honoree is Fabian Romo.
All right. All right, you got the drill. Smile big.
Petaluma Junior High School is proud to present Fabian Romo as our March 2017 Male Student of the Month. Fabian was born here in Petaluma on June 3, 2003. He grew up involved in his community and making use of the natural and family resources available locally. He is an avid reader and is continually adding to his impressive book collection. This young man is an excellent student, earning all A's and B's. He is a regular at the Renaissance Awards podium, receiving his well-deserved gold and silver awards each semester. Fabian plans to take as many honors and advanced classes as possible at Petaluma High School over the next few years and earn his way into a four-year college. His science teacher notes Fabian's classroom skills. Fabian is a great student with a great attitude. He's friendly to everyone and works well with others. He is always on task and working hard. His art teacher uses these words to describe Fabian: polite, kind, friendly, happy, and hardworking. When not at school, Fabian is active in church. He is a member of Generations of Faith at St. Vincent de Paul. He also enjoys being outdoors. He loves hiking, swimming, and playing kickball with his friends and family. Fabian is known around campus as being calm, kind, and helpful. He's also very concerned about the ongoing issues of racism and homophobia and does what he can to dissipate any provocation on campus. Fabian's proud parents add, Fabian is a very caring and enthusiastic child. His one true love is reading. He is always jumping in to help those in need and is there to lend an ear or a hand. At Petaluma Junior High, we recognize that Fabian Romo is an outstanding member of our school community. We are honored to have Fabian represent our school.
Where are they?
Our second honoree is Logan Pommy, and I have not seen him. He's right in front, that's why I didn't see him in the back. Petaluma Junior High School is proud to present Logan Pommy as our March 2017 Female Student of the Month. Logan was born in Santa Rosa on March 22, 2003. She is now a leader and a student athlete at Petaluma Junior High who loves animals. She aspires to be a veterinarian and is willing to put in the work to achieve that goal. A view of Logan's transcript indicates straight A's, and she has been rewarded for her academic efforts with numerous Renaissance Gold Awards. This is particularly impressive, knowing that Logan struggles with dyslexia. Logan's teachers were quick to respond to inquiries about Logan's school character and are highly complimentary. The adjectives her art teacher uses to describe Logan are hardworking, dedicated, detail-oriented, creative, artistic, friendly, helpful, and kind. Her PE teacher characterizes Logan as a great role model. Logan is a natural leader, always willing to volunteer to help her peers or run class or group activities. Her peers have great respect for her. She is always striving to push herself to do her best work, which inspires and motivates the people around her. And the comments from her science teacher are, Logan is a great student. She's always on task and takes and completes every challenge. Every detail is attended to. Logan is a great addition to any class discussion. Sports and animals occupy Logan during non-academic hours. She is a member of the Petaluma Girls Softball Association and on the Steel Breeze travel softball team. This is Logan's second year on the PJHS wrestling team, where she is currently team captain. Logan is also very active in the Tri-Valley 4-H Club and the California-Nevada Junior Hereford Association. A few years ago, Logan and her cow made it to the Junior National Hereford Expo in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Her experience in showing her cow nationally inspired Logan to pursue a doctorate in veterinary medicine and become a large animal doctor. In her spare time, Logan loves to cook and do arts and crafts. Logan is a young woman with a conscience. When asked what teen issues are most important, Logan shares that she is concerned about the posts she sees on social media. She also sees the need to better educate our young people about the risks of alcohol and marijuana use. Her parents' comments reflect those of the PJHS staff. Logan is a focused, goal-oriented, hardworking young lady. As a dyslexic student, she has had to work twice as hard as her peers to read and write. We're very lucky she prides herself on her good grades and strives to be the best in all she does. She is also busy with her animals, as well as with sports, where she excels as a leader. She makes us proud in all that she does. We echo that endorsement. Logan Palmy is an exceptional young lady. We are honored to have Logan represent Petaluma Junior High School as Student of the Month.
Maybe the front rows would be
Yeah, my parents and my grandparents and my little cousins.
Oh. Thank you very much. Okay, how about our high school from Casa Grande? And could you remind the folks outside that we can hear them a little bit, and we don't have a microphone, so the kids have to speak over them when they're too close to the door. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Scott Garrett. I'm president of Casa Grande, and I first want to bring up Joseph Chavez. Currently a senior at Casa Grande, Joseph plans on going to a 4-year university after high school in order to continue pursuing his academic interests. His favorite classes include entrepreneurship, where he is receiving some exposure to the business world through visits from guest speakers, and French 4, a class in which he is continuously challenged to take on an entirely new language and culture. Outside of school, Joseph enjoys both playing and watching basketball, a sport that he has grown to love since his days in junior high. He also finds pleasure in spending time with his friends and family. Joseph aspires to major in business administration, finding himself attracted to the idea of being an integral part of a successful company and hoping to someday own a business of his own. Joseph believes he will find success in the business world because of his creativity, ambition, and drive. He believes his tenacious mindset and motivation comes from his parents, who taught him early on that hard work and resilience is the key to success. After graduating from Casa Grande, Joseph will continue striving for academic and professional excellence. Next, I'd like to bring up Katie Marr.
Right over there with big smiles.
As a student at Casa Grande, Katie had many opportunities to pursue her academic interests, from creative classes such as journalism and photography to technical courses such as physics and chemistry. She has been introduced to a number of passions. Katie would like to thank Mr. Crate for inspiring an interest in science, along with being one of her favorite teachers in high school. To go along with her intellectual pursuits, she began playing soccer at age 8 and spent most of her weekends traveling all over the state for games and tournaments. When she wasn't playing soccer, she was riding horses, training as a competitive hunter-jumper. After playing competitive soccer for 7 years and varsity soccer at Casa for 2 years, she ultimately decided to quit and focus on her writing. Looking towards the future, Katie plans to attend a 4-year university after taking a gap year, in which she will work in the horse industry, spending 6 months in Ireland. She credits Casa with opening doors to numerous opportunities for her future academic pursuits in higher education.
America's senior class president at Petaluma High School. So first up, I would like to bring up Grace Davis. Grace Davis is a very caring and genuine young woman. She is also very inclusive and dedicated. She has a positive attitude and wants to make sure everyone feels included. Sophomore year, Grace was a part of the debate for the Lions Club, while junior year, she was involved in the program called Tomorrow's Leaders Today. Grace has taken AP and honors classes since her freshman year and continues to take a great pride in her work. She has balanced the demands of high school without allowing outside activities to interfere with her school, friendships, or time with her family. Grace has pushed herself to exceed in academic areas as well as out in the tennis court. She has played varsity girls tennis for all 4 years at Petaluma High, and this year she was team captain. Grace received Most Dedicated and Most Inspirational Player and was chosen as the All-Empire this year, voted by coaches. Grace is also a leader. Over the years, Grace has been active in her community. She delivers food for the committee on the shelterless, visits an elderly woman each week, and is a camp counselor. Grace believes giving back to her community is a big part of who she is. Grace will attend a 4-year university in the fall and intends to major in political science. She also hopes to travel and study a semester abroad. She believes it is important to immerse yourself in other cultures and see what it's like to live in other areas. Personally, knowing Grace for many years, I know wherever she goes in life, she will have a positive effect in the world. Congratulations, Grace Davis, for Student of the Month.
Yeah, my mom, my dad, my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins.
Okay, next up, Jesse Gillette. Okay, ever since Jesse could remember, music has been an incredibly important part of Jesse's life, as well as being an athlete and a good student. Between school, sports, and music, finding balance between the three of them has been essential in finding personal success at Petaluma High School. Jesse has achieved many of his academic goals through studying hard to earn the grades he has, strive for all through high school, and also by taking advanced courses in mathematics, government, economics, and Spanish. As an athlete, Jesse has taken on multiple sports over the years. He started his baseball career as a t-ball player and continued on to play on the Petaluma High School freshman and JV baseball teams as a freshman and sophomore. Jesse has enjoyed playing golf just as long as baseball and has joined the golf team his junior year. Although he still plays golf constantly, he decided to focus more on music opposed to athletics. Jesse started being classically trained on piano at the age of 7. Since he has kept up with his piano playing and in 5th grade started playing the saxophone, which is now his main instrument which he practices hours a day. Just in the past few months, he has been teaching himself how to play the flute and the clarinet, as they are very similar to the saxophone, and will add to his knowledge of music. I would like to congratulate Jesse Brulette as Student of the Month.
Well, it's too bad we don't have any students achieving anything. So again, thank you to all the friends and family, staff that supports these students, and for the students working so hard. You make us really, really proud and do amazing things. And thank you also to the leadership kids that get up here. I know it can be nerve-wracking, that get up here in 7th and 8th grade and in high school and deliver great accolades about their classmates. Mr. Schaefer, we will report to leadership that you did a very good job. Yeah, I'm sure they would have been impressed had they been here. Okay, so we have a couple more presentations, however, do you want to do student reports first though?
Yeah.
Let's do that one. Okay, so if you'll hang on, we're going to do the student reports and then we'll take a little break. So those of you that want to do some homework or enjoy the heat can go do so. Okay, so 7.2, student reports, the board. Casa Grande, you want to come up? Come on back.
Hello, back here. Scott Garrett from Casa Grande, president. And just a little recap, we've been going on for a couple months in Casa Grande. First thing I'd like to talk about is the class projects we've been having. Art 2 did some great sculptures, you can see, that were showed out on in the library. And some were a little creepier than others, but as you can see, but yeah, very realistic. We also have our annual bridge competition in physics, where all the students get to build their own bridges out of popsicle sticks and glue. And we have from arch bridges to trussels bridges, and I think the max of it's gone is 2,400 times its weight. So yeah, these are pretty high-end bridges, I would say. And we also want to say a little something about the sports. We got lacrosse, softball, baseball, badminton, boys tennis, track, and swimming going on. They're doing great. And I'd like to see what they're going to do throughout the season. We also had a gaucho cleanup day, Saturday. We worked on the Ole area. As you can see, they're gardening and planting out seeds, laying down bark. It was a good time for community service. They were out there, had lunch, and I think breakfast as well. It was a great time for all the students. And lastly, we have some leadership activities we're planning. We have our annual Disney Day, where we have everyone dress up in Disney Day costumes. And whoever dresses up will have a free lunch on leadership. And we also have GQ, which is coming up in April. And we have our theme, which is Hollywood. And all the guys are amped up about that. It's very good. And finally, we have a new event going on. It's a Spring Festival, which is a community event, which is open to everyone. And we'll have vendors out there. It's going to be on Earth Day, so we're going to have Camelback out there. We also have some environmental education out there as well. And lastly, we have a new thing from Dr. O, actually, Sounds of Casa, which we're going to have students from our high school performing music or dance outside in our new amphitheater outside during lunch for everyone to see as well. And that's about it. So thank you.
Okay, once again, I'm Mari Vasquez from Petaluma High School. Okay, so we've been pretty busy at Petaluma High School. We recently had our second Monterey Bay trip. So marine biology takes down, I believe, 4 days to Monterey Bay to see various animals, like they saw some whales. They also got to do some educational activities down there as well. They saw sea lions, which a lot of them were very excited about. They got to go on a boat ride, as I said earlier, to go check out some whales as well. So we had our annual winter formal. You can see Mr. Sturr down there. It went great. We raised a lot of money, and we also had pretty much the gym packed, which was very successful. We have pretty much 4 dances a year, and we have another one March 31st, which is a charity dance. So the tickets are $10, and 100% of the proceeds will go to the Petaluma cause. So we also have the Linnea Festival. This is our drama club, and the Linnea Festival is a festival which a lot of drama clubs are come together to compete from Northern California. As you can see, a couple of the students received awards for personal monologues, and the whole group won a bronze award for their act, I believe. On March 4th, we had a drumline competition. We did win first place. You can see Kennedy Grant there receiving her plaque. They worked very hard. They sounded really amazing. It's hard to think that they don't use like any other music besides what they play with. We also had a Mr. GQ, which was very successful. You can see the awards that people won. Mr. Talent, our student of the month, was Jesse playing the saxophone, which was really good. Mr. GQ won by Andre, Mr. Silly Goose, Colin Strumloff, Mr. Popularity, Jimmy Flynn, which a large portion of the proceeds went to the Cancer Society as well. And then we have Andy won superhero. So some sports that are coming up or have already started actually: boys golf, boys tennis, boys baseball, badminton, track and field, softball, and boys and girls lacrosse. They're very competitive. Hopefully we will do great and get some SCL championships. Lastly, we have a grant that was proposed, and we actually got Ms. Redfield and Mr. Knox worked together to get a journalism in the mixed grant. They are working on updating and improving journalism curriculum. TV journalism will purchase more equipment to allow them to conduct live interviews, more professional switching, plus more. Print journalism will purchase computers to boost their web presence and expand outside F2, allowing them more students to join the class. This year, TV journalism, known as Trojan Live, was new on our campus, and pretty much it's our morning announcements that are totally run by students. They air every single morning at 8:25. You guys should check it out. It's actually very entertaining, and it's incredible to think that everything they do, all the technology, is run by students. So that's all I have for today. Pretty much. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll take a quick 5-minute break in case a few folks need to file out of their All right, folks, we got a long meeting. Why don't you come on in and try to find a seat? We're working on our air conditioning. If we can get it to work, we're going to shut the doors. So if we can try to make some room and find some seats, that would be great. Oh yeah, but okay, that's what we did. Okay, our next presentation, we have got Petaluma Joint High School District Counseling Update Presentation. Looks like we have everyone's attention including ours now. Hi, take it away.
All right, good evening. I'd like to make some quick introductions. I'm Brett Splove. I'm the lead counselor at Casa Grande, and this is Megan McCollum, the lead counselor at Petaluma High School. And I'd also like to introduce some of my colleagues from the counseling department. We have Virginia Grace Braun, and also Julie Flosser, and Kathy Delp. And Paul Cooney could not make it tonight. That rounds out the Casa team.
And for Petaluma High, we have Christine Ruzick, Molly Guerra, and Fran Nolden.
So thank you for the opportunity to share information about the comprehensive counseling and guidance programs at both Petaluma and Casa Grande High School. Former Casa Grande principal Ron Everett once described the counseling department as the heart of the high school. I believe this metaphor best describes the integral role that counselors play in the context of providing direct services to students, as well as their role in the day-to-day operation of the school. Counselors provide students with a context for why they should learn. We encourage goal setting. We address crisis. We advise. We teach. And we are shoulders to cry on. For the well-adjusted teen, we provide power bars and Gatorade to help them complete each lap. For those struggling students who have been dealt bad cards, we help them get through their day-to-day lives. We are the glue, we're the duct tape, and the popsicle sticks that prop them up and keep them in school. So our goal for this evening is to illustrate how counselors support all students through a comprehensive school counseling program.
So the model that we guide our practices on is ASCA, or American School Counseling Association, and these are the standards that we've all been trained on through our program. So the 3 areas of development that are stressed are academic development, career development, and personal social development. And these things happen through our classroom guidance presentations, our one-to-one individual counseling, various group activities throughout the school, as well as parent and student engagement. And Brett and I will be going more deep into each of these.
So there are a lot of items we're going to go through really quick. The handouts you have spell out in a little more detail all the various activities we do throughout the year, but just to highlight a few things. Intro to High School, this is a classroom guidance presentation we give to every freshman right after school starts to integrate them into high school. What does it mean to be a high school student? What are good study habits? What are credits? What does graduation mean? What are A to G requirements? All those kinds of things that they will need to know to have a successful run through their high school career. We meet with all students in the classroom in a group and do educational plans in their 9th grade year. And we strongly encourage both parents and students to follow up for individual appointments. And notice I call them educational plans instead of 4-year plans. We used to always talk about 4-year plans. But really, we stretch it out to 6 to 8 years. So not just your 4 years of high school, but what are you going to do beyond high school and even beyond that in terms of college, trade schools, and all the different opportunities. We stress also academic vocabulary. Instead of saying things like college requirements, we say A through G requirements, because they're going to hear these things. You know, do you have your A through G requirements done? We talk about the NCAA requirements, and so if you're not an athlete, you've probably never heard of NCAA. You know, so we want to teach them that terminology so they know what types of questions to ask us. Counselors are an integral part of the individual education plan (IEP) process for students in special education. We serve on all of the IEP teams. We coordinate all the student study teams at the high school to address students who are struggling academically and perhaps referring them for special ed assessment if warranted. We also have after-school college application workshops during what we call the crunch time in October, November, the college application season, where students can get one-on-one help real-time doing their application live. And also, we have our SRJC Jumpstart program at both campuses. We're really proud of this. We're in year 3 at CASA.
And year 2 at Petaluma.
Year 2 at Petaluma High School. This was originally developed by Sharon Howell and Scott Wigger at CASA. And the idea was to give the students who are SRJC bound the same experience as the students who are 4-year college bound. And what that means is right off out of the gate in the fall, doing that application to Santa Rosa JC, doing their placement testing, meeting with the counselor, signing up for the college orientation, which is the whole matriculation process. And it's actually quite similar to the process for a 4-year, but in the old days we just sort of say, oh, come back and see us in April if you're going to the JC. But now we have them all fine-tuned and ready to go. We have about 100 of our seniors in the Jumpstart program, and the JC is actually rolling it out countywide to all the high schools. So we were on the ground floor of that. Our course signups and planning workshops, we do about 150 classroom visits at Casa Grande, probably about the same at Petaluma High per year. And they have different topics, but course signups, we put it in the context of not just what do you have to take to get out the door, but what are your future plans? Why are you doing this? Look at all these electives we have to offer. And also we have early assessment program presentations. So we partner with Sonoma State. Their staff come and present and talk about the relationship between the CASP testing at the junior level and how that measures college readiness. And so trying to give students a reason to take that test that, you know, doesn't really matter in a lot of their eyes, and how it can really play into whether they place at college level in English and math. And then we have a great partnership with 10,000 Degrees, a nonprofit out of Marin. They provide a tremendous amount of support mainly for our first generation students. They offer scholarships, college visits, tours, an amazing, vibrant program. We have about 25 of our students it's very competitive to get into. They have to apply and are accepted.
And then, of course, for personal and social development, which does make up a big chunk of our job on a day-to-day basis. So Link Crew is highlighted on here because we offer that at both high schools. I'm the coordinator, one of the coordinators for it at Petaluma High, and Paul Cooney at Casa Grande oversees it at Casa Grande, and that's a program to welcome in all of our freshmen, juniors, and seniors act as are their role models. In fact, Jesse, who was here earlier tonight, he is pictured right there. He is one of our great leaders this year, and we do activities with them at the start of the year and then throughout the year to make sure that they're doing well and staying on track. And it's important from a counseling point of view because we know the insights as to like what freshmen need the most help, so we can match up and link leaders accordingly. One-to-one counseling, so that's done on a daily basis in all kinds of forms. So oftentimes we are dealing with students that, you know, are going through everything from issues at home with their families to they're stressed because they're in 5 AP classes, plus doing sports, plus community service and X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, we have so many students that are just trying to manage their day-to-day stress and activities, and we talk and coach them through all of those things. Digital citizenship is done more on a wider school basis, but it's done a lot through our human interaction classes at, you know, making sure students know the rights and wrongs and ins and outs of using social media, because that is a big part of what we deal with is we get students that come in and, you know, they send a picture that they didn't mean for 100 students to see, and now they're dealing with the consequences of that. Project Success and Youth Thrive are two things that we really rely on because that is essentially the mental health counseling that we offer. So Project Success is an MFT that oversees some interns. This year we have 2 at Petaluma High. I'm not sure about at CASA, 3. And then the Youth Thrive is a group that meets weekly, and it used to be known as an anger management group, but it's really branched into more than that. So it's dealing with a lot of like family and coping skills. So we partner very closely with those two. Group counseling, which is done more so by our interns as well as by the MFTs, but that does happen as well. And then senior profile is really when students get into their senior year, we have them reflect back on everything that they've done throughout high school so that we can write them proper letters of recommendation. But a lot of it, like on Petaluma Highs, it says, what's your life motto to live by? And makes them think about, what did I do freshman year? Where am I at now? And reflect back on that. And then another big part is that we partner throughout the community. We have to be aware of all the different resources available because we want to be able to refer students both for, you know, mental health counseling as well as helping them find internships, community service, and all the other things throughout the Petaluma community.
So career development, we in the 10th grade roll into that. We have a presentation called iSearch where it's a collaboration for about the last 15 plus years where counselors and English teachers have teamed up to do, the English teachers have an essay assignment and we do a workshop in their class geared toward getting the students to think about their future. They do an online interest assessment through californiacolleges.edu, which is a fantastic free website run by the state of California. They also can develop a more comprehensive ed plan. And if they transfer the educational plan we did with them in 9th grade into California colleges, that information will pre-populate their CSU application when they apply as a senior. So kind of a nice little shortcut. We also do employment readiness workshops. So this is, the iSearch is what do you want to do when you grow up? The employment readiness is here and now. So this is sophomores. Are you thinking about getting a job? Child labor laws. How are you going to prepare for an interview? How are you going to do that online application? We run them through a whole online application. And what does it mean when you're checking that box, okaying them to investigate your background and your personal character? And oh my God, what did I put on Instagram last night? We also have a robust resume development program. We do junior year as, again, these are classroom presentations, teaching them about the different types of resumes, functional, chronological, and so forth, the type of resume that will work for them, whether it's for college or athletics or for a job, those types of things. We also have a lot of job shadow opportunities. Valerie Alston and also Crystal at Petaluma High School, our college and career specialists, are really at the forefront of the job shadows. So we're getting students out into the community to really experience, to see what it looks like. And we also partner with a lot of summer programs. Summer Search, Camp Ryla, Tomorrow's Leaders Today, they all come to our campus and interview prospective students, and we send a lot of our students to those summer leadership type programs. We also, all of our students, for part of their senior project at CASA, do a 20-hour community service. There's 20 hours of community service required for that project, and they get a lot of help through our College and Career Center to get those placements for their hours.
And then parent and student engagement. Look, there's Mr. Stern engaging the public. So lots of parent nights happen throughout the whole year. I counted my first year working at the high school. I did 17 parent nights. So I got to the end of the year and I was a little relieved. So there's pretty much a parent night almost every month, and that's true at both schools. So we do the freshman preview nights early in January and February for the prospective future students. Freshman parent night is early in August to welcome the new parents into our school. Back to school night is, this regular back to school night, but counselors are set up to ask a counselor questions at both sites. College night happens for seniors in the early fall. At Petaluma High, we split it up between four-year college-bound students and JC-bound students so that they both are getting that individual focus. Cash for College Night at 10,000 Degrees is who we partner with on that, and it's a great event this year. We had 75 families come and complete their FAFSA or California Dream Act in one night, which was huge for them. NCAA Night, we partner up with that to help all the college-bound athletes. We offer a separate college night in the spring for the lower grade levels. AP and Honors Night so that students can learn about all the potential AP and Honors offerings at the school. Booster Student of the Year Awards is specific to CASA. Petaluma High does a Trojan of the Month and brings students in for a luncheon for that. And then Senior Recognition Night, which is common for both schools and really recognizes all the seniors and all the hard work that they've done throughout their 4 years.
So with that, we'd like to open it up. There were a couple of questions that were pre-submitted. I don't know if you'd like us to address those or if you have any questions.
Go ahead and do those.
We'll do ours after.
Okay.
So I think I had the first one, which is how are counselors helping with open access for students and what's your role in this? So we help with this in a lot of different ways, and how are they counseled into AP and Honors classes. So at both schools, we run regular reports after grading periods to look at students that are maintaining above a 3.0 GPA, especially as they're coming in like freshman and sophomore year and starting to get that exposure to AP and Honors classes. And those students we really try to target, especially when we know that maybe their parents at home aren't going to say, you need to be taking AP World, and we try to target those students. We also use PSAT data and look back at who scored well and who would be well fit for those classes. We look at class lists to make sure they're balanced, to see what names are showing up, what names aren't. And then we promote it really in all the classrooms as we go in throughout the year. So at the beginning of the year, we start talking about it with freshmen, but then when we go in the spring and do all of the core signups, we really promote it. And I feel like almost too much this year because we had a huge number of signups. Like all of our AP and Honors classes across the board had so many signups, which is great. So I mean, I think we really try to make sure that we're looking at kids' schedules, that they're not just flat schedules, that everyone has something that they're excelling in. Maybe not all 5 AP classes, maybe just 1 or 2.
There was also a question in regard to education plans. I touched on that briefly. We have slightly different models between, well, we do a lot of stuff in common in terms of making an educational plan for all the students. At Casa Grande, we do that initial plan in the freshman year. Then we revisit it after the student's done the plan, we encourage parents to come in and make individual appointments, and we get a certain group of those parents that will come in and do that. The ed plan is revisited again in the sophomore year for the iSearch and also in the course signups. What we found is when we do our course sign-up process at each grade level to plan for classes for the next year, we go into classes, give this big presentation, and it drums up all this business. And we literally have 2 weeks of backlog of students that want to see counselors, and out comes the educational plan again, because we've really just sort of, we go in there and put all this information out there. And so it really is, instead of having a formalized meeting each year, we do these things to drum up all the business, and then they come to us, and it's been a pretty effective model. Over the course of a whole year, we see all of our students just in a lot of different venues, whether it be, individually in our offices or in the classroom setting.
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to add on that is when we do the plans at Petaluma High, we do them as Google Docs, and I was really delighted this year in January when I was in sophomore classes, they had pulled out their plans from last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're looking at this, they're like, Miss McClellan, I look at this all the time. So I think that it really drills it in, especially being that they're online instead of the old-fashioned paper and pen model, that they can go back and refer to it. Okay, the next question is, how are you assisting with implementing the LCAP? So the 3 areas that I would say that we focus the most on is the A to G requirements, which I think we really push and impress those requirements onto students every single year in parent meetings and individual meetings, so that by the time they're a senior, hopefully they're not like, what's A to G? And also communicate all that information out at all of our parent nights. Ed plans, I think Brett already touched on that, and yeah, they are reviewed every year. And then parent engagement happens through all the parent nights throughout the year. We also have a very open policy. If a parent wants to meet with a counselor, we always will make the time for that, whether it's an in-person meeting, a phone, an email, but we make sure that all parents are getting their needs met.
And one following question was, how are you serving as an advocate for all students? We really go off of the model that all of our students are equal, and all that sounds cliche. We try to really be careful about the language and the terminology. So for example, going back to A through G requirements, instead of saying college entrance requirements, we believe, as a lot of people do, that the spirit of the A through G is to prepare students for the next step after high school. So you need to be prepared whether you're going to Stanford, or you're going into an apprenticeship, or you're going into the military. And the A through G requirements give that really minimum foundation for that. So my joke in my office is the word just is a 4-letter word, because I've heard a million times, Mr. Sklov, I'm just going to the JC, I don't need Algebra 2. Guess what? What do you think you're going to take when you get to the JC? Math, 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 and more math. So, and also sharing information about a lot of other pathways besides the traditional 2- and 4-year college pathways. Lots of interesting factoids to try to pull in the students, like the average cost of a 4-year degree when it's all said and done is about $120,000 over 4 years. If you go into an electrician's apprenticeship, you start out at $22 an hour. At year 5, if you're a full journeyman, you're making about $100,000 a year. So when your counterpart who went off to college is $120,000 in the hole, you might be debt-free and making $100,000. So it's an interesting way to look at it, especially in these days, day and age when college is getting so expensive.
The next question is, what challenges are there in specifics, I think referring to personal, social, and how much time do we spend on personal counseling versus college and career counseling? We've talked about it amongst all the counselors, and I'd say, it really depends, but roughly 25%. Unfortunately, we do have a big increase in the amount of mental health issues that are going on with students. I don't think that's just specific to Petaluma, but we have students in our office all the time that are anxious, depressed, feeling suicidal, fighting at home with their parents, finding out domestic violence is going on in the home, finding out about sexual abuse, all those sorts of things. And when that happens, it's not a quick, okay, go back to class now. It really does take into a lot of our time, especially when we do have students, unfortunately, that get hospitalized, and then we have to work with them and their parents and their teachers on getting them back on a plan to maintain what they're doing at school, as well as, more importantly, caring about their mental health, because oftentimes those kids are the very same kids that are your high-achieving kids and are like, but I can't miss AP Physics even though I feel suicidal. Yes, you can miss your AP Physics class. And I mean, I say that jokingly, but that is actually a real example, and unfortunately it happens way too often. So again, relying on outside resources and being able to have like things like MFT interns does really help us out, because then we can refer out accordingly and, you know, kind of do wraparound services.
This question was in regard to vocational counseling and alternatives offered to students who do not want to go to a four-year college. We touched a little bit on this in some of the other areas, but I did want to just take the opportunity to bring up one thing. As far as the differences between the two comprehensive high schools in terms of the occupational and career technical education programs that are offered, what we hear a lot is, oh, you know, if you want to take welding, you can go to Petaluma High, or if you want culinary, you can go over to CASA. The reality of that is it's a lot easier said than done. We have different bell schedules. We have, you know, just the transportation piece of it. When a student co-enrolls at the other high school, they're at the bottom of the pecking order for getting into that class. So when you're looking at programs, I encourage you, you know, to look at both sites as individual sites. You know, I know, for example, our automotive program is projected to grow by at least a couple of sections next year, whereas Petaluma's is going down. And so, you know, maybe there's a way where we can preserve those types of programs at both sites, because it is difficult for students to go to both schools at once.
Okay, the next question. There are a few individuals in town that will track your students from 7th through 12th grade for a fee. They only take a handful of students at a time and work with them, their interests, hobbies, grades, etc. to help them get into college and career path. How well are we doing this with the overabundance of students and needs? So I think that's referring to like all the outside private college counselors, and I mean there are a big handful, and I'd say it starts more in their like sophomore and junior year. We really heavily at Petaluma High rely on Crystal, who is absolutely amazing. She sits with students one-on-one. She will help them research colleges. She will sit and look through their applications. She will proofread their essays. She will walk them through every bit of the financial aid process, including when they get their financial aid back, and evaluating, okay, what's actually realistic for you. So I just want to point out that this year she's met with 130 of our seniors one-on-one, which takes up, you know, so much time when you're sitting with someone and trying to find those right majors, and then find out a couple months later, oh, they didn't send in their ACT in time, and she has to call that school and work through all of that. So she is really who we rely on at Petaluma High for that. I mean, we as counselors meet individually with all of our students and go over as much of that as we can, but with a caseload of 350, it is not as realistic. So we really rely on our college and career center to help us out with that. And along with, we have 2 interns this year, so we will sometimes have them assist with those kinds of needs as well. So, and we also, sorry, one last thing, for our seniors, we track all of our seniors at the get-go, so like who's working with an outside counselor, who's applying to CSUs, who's applying to UCs, who's applying to you know, private schools, and what kind of majors, so that way throughout the year as different things come up, we have a quick list to refer back to. Oh, here's this opportunity, let's talk to these students specifically.
And the last question is, what can we, the board district, do to support the counselors? First thing I'd say is to offer your continued support. I mean, I've been in the district a little over 10 years now, and worked in other districts, and I've really been impressed with the level of support and the level of knowledge that the administration and the board knows about counselors and what we do, and values that. Also, our mental health, school-based mental health program that Dave oversees, that is a vital component, and it doesn't matter what number of interns we get each year, they are booked with a waiting list within a couple of 2 or 3 weeks of school. And so it's absolutely vital to not only preserve that, but if there's any way to expand that in the future, because like Megan alluded to earlier, there's just a real uptick in mental health needs. We do a lot of personal counseling, but there is that point where we have to hand it off to someone who's more, can take the time to do more therapy type interventions. The other thing as well is just going back to the private counselors that offer services for a fee. One of the things that would help us to compete with that, if you will, is if there were resources available to go and actually visit some of these colleges. Because what I really see when it's all said and done between us and private counselors is they have a lot of time to travel, and they can, give these little data nuggets about campuses that, we just don't know about because we've never been there. But getting to go to more conferences and getting out there, we're able to access site council money, but it's pretty limited in terms of what that will pay for in terms of travel expenses and things like that. So if we can go and then report back to our colleagues, we don't all have to go to the same place. But, I've never been to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I would love to know what is so great about that
Mike's your
campus.
guy.
I look at the website.
Mike's your guy.
Give you a dissertation.
But, we research with students. I can tell you Humboldt State has their own submarine, and science students go out in Humboldt Bay in a submarine.
Yeah.
Pretty cool for, an undergrad science program. So finding out those kinds of things can really help us help students.
That's right.
Before we open it up to the rest of the board for any more questions, I want to thank you for all of the hard work you do. About 3 times I looked over at Phoebe circling these numbers of how many students you individually serve, and it's overwhelming. I have trouble with the 3 that live in my house. So 345 students and trying to get them somewhere, at the end of 4 years and keep them on track and listen to all the things that they obviously are bringing to you. And to be commended, we're very, very happy and thankful. With that, anyone, I think you had a question unless I got answered, or?
Yeah, you touched on it, but real quick, one of the things we've heard in the last few meetings for people in more on the CTE track, we'll call it, was that they were kind of, felt like they were directed away. So I was just curious if there is a CTE protocol and what you do to integrate it into A through G and the promotional aspects. If you have anything, concrete or something, if somebody comes in and just says, I'm really interested in this CTE track or whatever, how do you deal with that?
So again, we try to put that on certainly a level playing field, and we have representatives come from CTE type programs, whether they're schools like UTI, and to present in the same in the career center, just like a representative from a 4-year college. We also look at, in all of our classroom presentations, we try to balance. We don't immediately leap right into the A through G requirements. We'll try to have slides that represent a number of different pathways and point out the fact that automotive engineering meets a graduation requirement. It's also an A through G class. A lot of students just assume that a lot of those classes, like culinary, don't count for anything. And so we try to emphasize that they're important too, and so there's a pathway that you can take. But we also all roads kind of lead back to A through G in the sense we want them to be prepared. So, I don't know, do you want to add?
I think that covers it pretty well, and I try to encourage students if they're like, well, I really want to take this welding class, but I want to make sure I'm on track for college. I'm like, you can do both, actually. So, trying to remind them of that, because sometimes they do feel that pressure. I need to take, all 6 of these academic classes, so trying to balance that out.
That's important because we've really tried as a board to qualify as many of those CTE classes as A through G for just those reasons, so that kids aren't put on, this devil's alternative, so to speak.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just thank you for your hard work too, and the great work you do with kids. Really thank you.
I just have a good question. I know you talked about Crystal. How many hours a week is she?
So she's 4 days a week now. I think her hours are up to, I think she's 8 to 4 now, I believe. Yeah, her hours were just expanded this semester. Like, we would love to have her
Is
5
that the
days
same
a week.
at CASA for your career?
We have Valerie Alston. She is full-time, but she also spends some of her time at Carpe Diem and Sonoma Mountain Schools a couple mornings a week. So she's not full-time at CASA, but she's full-time between the 3 schools.
And they've both linked on with a lot of the pathways that are happening at both schools, and are attending more of like more of the stuff throughout the county to integrate that better and bring in more of the like job shadows and outside speakers. So
that's something you could potentially use more time. Full time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always at Petaluma, we're always like, well, there's not enough Chris to go around.
Both of our college
And Valerie's awesome too. So
both of our college and career centers are more vibrant than they've ever been. You know, when I first came to CASA, you know, our college and career center was a room full of books, and you know, the person who was there, who was never there the next year, just because of the nature of the position, you know, just kind of kept the lights on and said hi to students. Now we have two dynamite people that, I mean, I speak for CASA. When you go in our college and career center, there are students in there. They're on computers. They're doing applications. Miss Alston is, I mean, it's a high energy place. It's become, you know, like a real kind of cool place and a good way to hang out on campus. And so we're really proud of that.
I will tell you, I don't know if you, I'm sure you recall, actually, because we've had conversations about it, but I remember doing a site visit, remember, Tessa, when Linda Shealy was the principal at the time, and Mr. Backman said, walk over this way, we'd like to show you what we envision for an actual, so they've been really pushing hard to get that, so I'm glad it's better than it was.
So which one of you wants to fill the new position of college scout, unlimited expense account, and it's all on the district's nickel?
Oh, gosh.
You know what the salary scale is.
Yeah.
I mean, Brent has kids, he should probably start
Where's
talking
Chris?
first.
Chris at the table.
Yeah, it was a great presentation, and we're very appreciative of the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on, 7.4, we have a presentation on the new California accountability model. Is that?
Hey Dave, can you pull in?
I will send we have a presentation.
Hi, good evening. I did want to clarify the additional hours that we were able to provide for Valerie and Chris was through the NCCPA Career Pathways Alliance that our county is part of with 5 other counties. So the county actually approached us and gave us some additional money specifically for work-based learning, and both schools used it for those positions. So that's why their hours were increased. Okay. All right, so I'm here to update you on the new California School Accountability Model. This is the official new name. It's no longer the Academic Performance Index it was before. You saw kind of a working update back in November by my director, Kim Harper, and it's now about to roll out officially, so we wanted to give you an update. The key shifts between the prior model and the new model is it's no longer just one number per district, per school. We learned that you can't really quantify student achievement and the school's performance in one single number. And in the old system, it was tests. So it was the CSTs and it was the California High School Education Exam. That was the entire score. That was the value placed on schools. So now it's more than a single number. Equity, there's definitely, you'll see, it's definitely transparent. You can see any disparities. You can see clearly each subgroup, how they perform in each of the areas. So it definitely increases your focus on areas of need. And it supports local decision making. The direction we've been given from the county is that any areas in red, particularly, or orange, should be areas of focus in our LCAP. And for schools, areas of focus for their single plans. So you'll see that, it's clear. The new system is based off of the 10 state priorities that are part of the LCFF priorities. So there are state indicators and there are also local indicators. At first, we're just going to go over the state indicators. The ones that you don't see, they're local indicators, 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. So as you can see, there's an academic indicator for English learner progress. There's a chronic absence indicator, which doesn't exist yet, it's still in the works. There's a graduation rate indicator, suspension rate indicator. They're working on a college and career indicator. They have included the ELA and math scores from the SBAC for juniors. That's a piece of it, because the EAP results are in there. But they want to take in other factors like students enrolled in CTE courses, students enrolled in AP, students passing the AP test with a 3 or higher, students completing pathways in CTE. There's a whole other mix of data that hasn't come out yet, so that's not You'll see on the state website that's blank for now. So you've seen this before. We have 5 performance levels and their colors. So explain to somebody what a yellow is. That's the job here. So again, it's the Trivial Pursuit icons or whatever those were, those little pie pieces. Blue's eyes, red's lows. Again, every one of these state indicators has their own little 5x5 placement grid. On the left-hand column is our current status based off of some cut scores, and the top part is the change, the difference between how we performed previously compared to this year. So the way it reads is the column down the middle. The column down the middle is maintaining. Moving over to the right, you're increasing, or you're increasing significantly. Moving to the left from the middle, you're decreasing significantly. So you're aiming for the blue, right? You're aiming for the green and blue, the yellow, you want to move up. In the old model, if you didn't achieve perfection, if 100% of your students didn't achieve proficiency, you fell into program improvement at some point. Even the highest performing schools, if they didn't increase, they eventually were penalized. In this new system, if you reach the blue and you at least maintain or don't decline significantly, you can stay in the blue, you can still earn a good rating. Here's an example of what it actually looks like. This is a math indicator for 3rd through 8th grade results on the SBAC. This is what they were calling this a rubric, an evaluation rubric. It's now 5x5 placement report. So on the left-hand column, this is just an example. These are the cut scores from the SBAC. On the top, you've got the maintained, increase, decrease that I just explained. And as a district, we'll have the ability to look at where our schools are. So it'll plot our schools, where they are by indicator. We can also dive down into each student group. So you can see here the student groups are grouped according to where they fall, according to this indicator. So, where we're at. Use my little clicker here. All right, so again, each indicator has its own set of cut scores. They don't necessarily match, so that's why we have to look at each of those charts separately. The state has said the cut points will stay the same for about 3 to 5 years before they do any changes. So all of this will be reported on the California School Dashboard, which is a website on the CDE website, and this will be public tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. So this is still embargoed information, so I can't show you our data, but I will show you some dummy data, so you can see. So when you log in, you're brought to this page. It shows you this is the equity report. There's 4 tabs across the top. So it shows you, here's our state indicators. Here's students' performance by color. Down here, the local indicators, which have not been populated yet. We actually will have the ability to upload, complete those. So this is just kind of an overall snapshot. How did all of the district students do in these areas? If you see there are underlined blue hyperlinks, those will take you to a page which will show you how all the student groups did in those areas. The English learner progress, as you can see, is not hyperlinked. It's still in development, chronic absenteeism as well. And if you notice under college and career, the 8th grade, the 11th grade assessments from the SBAC are there, but not the rest of the information. So if I clicked on graduation rate, it would take me to a page like this. And this now divides down into all my subgroups, all my student groups, English learners, foster youth. Up top, you can see it says all blue, green, yellow, red, orange. I can toggle and kind of isolate groups. If I want to see all my red and orange, I click on that. It grays out the rest of the groups so I can focus on them. The next tab is status and change. So this correlates to that 5x5 grid where we have been given a status and change rate. So for example, here we have our state indicators, students' performance by color. And for example, if I look at the suspension rate, in this case, it's a bad thing to be high. So in this district, they had a very high suspension rate, and it increased 2.8% year over year. So that's why they're red, right? So that would stick out. If I look at another indicator down here in math, if you notice, it has nothing to do with percentage, it's points. So it's a little, you got to read these things a little differently. So on the SBAC for the math and the English, there are 4 performance levels: meeting the standard, exceeding the standard, nearly met, not met. Level 3 is those that meet the standard. So what they do is they average all of your student scores, and wherever your average is, how close you are to meeting the standard is that level. So in this case, this group was 51.5 points on average below meeting the standard. So as we close that gap, so they're yellow, even though they were low, they increased 5.5 points. So you've got a little different situation than before. It's not just where you're at, it's where you are in relation to where you were. So are you increasing, are you improving? Another report, this is kind of an overall snapshot of all the subgroups. This is the student group report that you'll have access to. So for example, if I just look down this column for students with disabilities, it shows me how they did in the indicators that are available. And the state is saying that they will provide some type of additional support, and we kind of come under their watchful eye for any subgroup that doesn't meet the standard in 2 or more areas. So you can see here, students with disabilities would definitely be targeted for support because they've got 3 areas in the head. All right, and then here's an example of the subgroup of students with disabilities. I've gone into their status and change report, and this is how they did on each of the indicators that there's results for and their status and change. So not to go into too much detail, but if there are at least 30 students in a subgroup, they have data. If there's less than 30, but 11 or more, so 11 to 29, yeah, 11 to 29, there will be, you'll see this, or you'll see this and this, but not a color. And then groups less than 11 are just an asterisk. They don't print any information for the public consumption, in case people try to figure out who those kids are. So those were the state indicators. The local indicators are as follows. The last 2 are for counties. And these are reported differently. So we don't get a performance level, we don't get a color. We either have met it or have not met it. And if we don't meet it in subsequent years, either met or not met for 2 years. So these are locally defined as compared to the state ones. So communicating with stakeholders. Again, like I said, this launches tomorrow. We've already set up a press release to go out to the media tomorrow, which will be public at 10:30 a.m. Anyone can get in. So the embargoed information has been shared with district and site administrators last week at our meeting, last Monday, a week ago. And we've also been sharing kind of updates as the progress has rolled out from the state with our DLAC and the LCAP groups. Next steps, so clearly, we've already seen it, but any of the groups where we received a red or orange performance level, you'll see addressed in our LCAP. And we're also going to work with schools to align our needs, the LCAP address needs, as well as their site needs based off of their performance to align to their LCAP. So we're hoping to bring at the next board meeting in April an update on where we're at with the annual update on the LCAP. So you'll see some of these same things. So I encourage you to check out our press release tomorrow and hop on the website, try to figure it out, and let me know if you have any questions. And that's it. Questions?
Yeah, good stuff. Go ahead.
Does the state put all that information and data in there, and they just email it out to you, say this is how your schools did?
So they don't email it out to us, we have to go to the website and view it, but the state pre-populates all of the state indicators. They pull that from our systems. Where it used to be found on different parts of the state website, it now will be all pulled and recorded here. The local indicators, those are what we report. So we get to upload and add our narrative. Do that.
So again, part of that matrix is us against us, right? It shows how we're doing, kind of growing as far as improving or static or not improving. But then there's also a state base, statewide base that they're going to put in there that indicates how we do against school districts across California as a whole.
So far, they haven't shared anything like that with us about comparisons. I'm sure at some point they're going to, like on the SBAC, we definitely get county and state totals, so we can see where we are.
I'm just wondering, is there any, so there's not going to be any, because parents shop right now, they shop schools big time.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to look inside our school and you compare it, and you look over at the school in Nevada, let's say, and just say, okay, they're both improving, but you still haven't really on a...
So that will be more difficult with this new system, to just tag
No,
a
I
school
know.
as a good school or bad school or great school. You'll see they may be graded in certain areas, but have some other deficiencies. Yeah, so no, the cut scores on that left-hand column on that grid, those are set by the state.
Okay.
They used actual data, score results to try to figure out what were attainable, realistic, kind of goals there. So in that way, they've used all the data, but no,
They're not rankings, right?
they don't put anything out like that.
Okay, what about the actual testing protocols to get that data? So our achievement testing protocols.
What's your specific question on that?
Well,
Where
we're
did I
not.
get it?
Yeah, no, but I mean, everybody will be using the same testing protocols, correct?
So for the math indicator and the ELA indicator, that is pulled directly from the SBAC,
Right.
which are the assessments we take in the spring, 3rd through 8th grade and 11th grade. So those get pulled automatically. Everyone takes that.
Right. So okay, I just want to make sure they're using the same data. All schools. Okay. Good.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cliff.
Okay, so our next item are comments from the public. But I have some speaker cards that are filled out that don't really tell me what you want to talk about. And each subject is given its own amount of time. So I don't want to risk somebody not getting to talk because I've closed a particular comment. So I'm just going to run through a couple of these cards. I'm also going to ask that if you want to speak tonight, you get your card in right now. Thank you, Sandra.
Never run into loss.
Kelly, so just concerned PCS parent, are you concerned about something in particular?
Concerned about the safety of our students, protecting them.
What I need to know is if it's something on the agenda or not, because one way you'll get more time and one you won't.
Okay, it's not on the agenda.
No, it's not, okay.
This is from Trojan Live. Petaluma High School is going to be doing some filming for the station at Petaluma High.
Okay, thank you. And then I have also Mr. Feldman. Again, I have just Petaluma Community. What are you speaking about tonight?
The role of the schools in protecting our students.
Do you have any, this seems, okay, the reason why I'm asking is if I take your public comment and then I move on to something else and it's related to that item, you don't get to get back up and talk. So are we talking about safety from bullying, cyberbullying, immigration? Is there a specific thing?
Regarding immigration.
Immigration, okay, that's important because that's an agenda item, you guys. So I'm thinking of moving that up also on the agenda since we may have a lot of people here to speak on it. So that's what I'm getting at. Not that you have to speak to what I'm talking about. Is that you, Kelly? Okay. That is an item on the agenda. So I'm also going to ask Ms. Hayes.
Yeah.
And again, we have concerned parent wrap up. What, do you have a?
Yeah, concerning the same issues.
Okay. Got it. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, I'm going to assume Carolina G is the same? Yes, Kelly? Okay. Ms. Elaine Daly. This might be slightly different, but I'm not sure. Ms. Daly?
It's the same.
Same, thank you. Okay, okay. There were others, but they were clear, so, oh. Okay, so Carla and Vicky, you will be staff, so I'm just gonna take. Okay. I'm gonna organize this, I'm gonna take, for real, because I know you're all waiting, a 2-minute restroom break. Oh, I think you already left. We will start public comment in 2 minutes. I'm gonna organize and we'll be ready to go. Okay. Okay, thank you for your patience. We've got a full house tonight. Okay, so item 8, comments from the public. These are items that are not on the agenda, which I've already done. What is this? Sorry, something said.
I said that there's a new one, so you have to.
It's the same topic. Okay, sorry. Okay. I think that they're all different, so that we won't need to do that. Okay. Mr. Costas, you know where to go. Take you first. Come on up, sir. Oh, you know what? While you're walking up, let me read the little admonishment here. On the speaker card, if you want to read along, under Governance Code Section 54954.3a, members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any item or items of interest, providing it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the school district. In accordance with Board Policy BP 9323, each speaker is allocated a total of 5 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. While the above referenced government code allows speakers to criticize the district's policies, procedures, programs, services, and/or employees, the district does have a current policy, BPAR 1312.1, specific to complaints against employees. Should comments from the public pertain to a specific district employee, the board requests that the complaint first be submitted in writing to the employee's immediate supervisor for investigation. The board does not take action or discuss items not appearing on the agenda. The board values public comments and wishes to convey that although board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda, they listen carefully and appreciate and value input from the public. So what that means is because the community at large isn't notified of what we're going to talk about if it's not on the agenda, while we are listening, sometimes I think people think we're rude because we can't dialogue with you about the topic. I always give the silly example of somebody comes here and they think all the schools should be painted purple. I can't have any discussion with you about painting the schools purple. I can only say thank you very much. I could direct staff to follow up with you later. One of us can follow up with you. But I can't talk to you about it because the rest of the community wasn't aware that we would be talking about it. Things on the agenda are different. With that said, oh, last thing, decorum is really important. People are very passionate when they come to speak to the school board about their issue. However, we don't want to intimidate somebody else in the room that has a different perspective or view. So while you might think someone's speech or comment is wonderful and want to stand up and applaud, we're not going to allow that. Because somebody might be sitting right behind you that is now intimidated and scared to get up because they're going to say the exact opposite of what that person's just said. It's kind of hard when you get excited and we have a packed house tonight. So please give each person the floor. Please be respectful. No clapping, applauding, jeering, booing, or hissing. With that, Mr. Costas, take it away. Especially you, Mr. Lynch.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm Peter Costas. I'm currently president of the Stowe Board of Trustees. And just a couple of things, a couple of tips. And I would like to come back up later with your privacy policy, talk about that. First of all, I want to really, our school board was really appreciative to have you show up at the trustee recognition dinner. That was a lot of fun. It was quite a heartwarming night with our guest speaker. Fits right into what you're talking about now in terms of privacy policy. He was undocumented, and you heard his story. The other thing, I was a judge at the STEAM Showcase last Friday, a week ago Friday, and there was about 30 schools there. Casa Grande had, I learned all about robotics. You guys had a great presentation with your students. It was wonderful to see Casa represented. Thank you. Yeah, it was really cool. It's not like when I first went to when I did a science project, it was like a 2x12 with a block of ice on it, And you watch the block of ice move down, that was a glacier, right? And now it's just these students were integrating, they spoke eloquently about how their project integrated science, technology, engineering, math, and art. I mean, they got it. It wasn't just a science fair, it was a STEAM fair. And they knew what that meant. It was great to see the CASA students there. Another thing that was interesting was last Friday I was at Santa Rosa JC. There was a small schools event where they invited a lot of alternative high schools there to get an idea of what Santa Rosa JC is about, doing a tour of the campus, meeting people from different programs to help students, and it was great to see the Crossroads students there too. IE Sonoma, I hope you attend that. That's June 12th. Sir Ken Robinson is going to be speaking. If you haven't heard him speak, he's pretty amazing. He had one of the highest TED Talks ever seen. And it's pretty cheap this year. I think it's $25 or something like that. So IE Sonoma, and I know last year you Petaluma School Districts helped sponsor. I hope the board considers that again. And lastly, our Mad Hatter Ball. I'm also on the board of directors of Mentor Me, and we're having our Mad Hatter Ball April 1st. It'll be a real fun event, and we're in quite a few of your schools supporting your students. So thank you.
Thank you very much. No. That was his fault. He started that.
He's a
And that's only because it's really hard for me to get going if I have to wait for the room to quiet down.
He's a newbie, and Peter's very inspirational. So. I'm still going through the hazing right now.
Okay, I'm going to do PHS Auto Shop next. I have two people speaking on the Auto Shop. So, Ms. Santos. Uh-oh. Did we lose one in the crowd? No, oh, there she is. Come on down.
Hi, my name's Catherine. I just wanted to come and say thank you to Petaluma High for working to continue with the program that really helps give students confidence the way it gave me when I went through the Auto Shop program. It's helped me a lot in my career, and just thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to help. And we're really excited to hear what the counselors had to say about the programs working towards multiple avenues of career development, and we're excited to help, so thank you very much.
Thank you. And Miss Moreda? Yeah, all right.
Hi, my name is Shalina Moreda. I am a product of the auto shop and the other trade shops from Petaluma High School. I'm a professional motorcycle racer now, so I get to put some of that stuff to use. I'm here in support of the Petaluma Auto Shop program, and I'm also here with an entire crew that's been supporting us. Thank you all for being here. We all want to say a big thank you to you for hearing us, hearing the community, for calling a special meeting for us, and for allowing us the opportunity to help to build and preserve this awesome program. We are really excited to be able to help rally students to get them excited in this program again, and to work with not only all of you, but the counselors as well. Like Catherine had said, we're excited to hear that. And to bring the community in, because I think that community involvement is a huge thing in schools, and maybe we're lacking a little bit of that. So you guys helped us open our eyes to that, so thank you very much, and we're here to support you and hope to see you supporting us as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much for that, for coming. And I don't know if you got wind of the notification went home today about the electives for next year.
We did, but I was going to say thank you regardless of that.
Thank you. That's very nice. Okay. So I can put those over here.
I think that's just a perfect example of the community coming together with the school district and really working together with a common goal and solution-based. So thank you all. Because I think, as you're right, community is very important.
And I hope that this is just the beginning.
Yeah, no. So many incredible resources out there, so I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. I've got Dr. Dennis. That's you? Come on down.
Hi, my name is Dennis Kosike. I am a longtime resident of Petaluma. I'm a retired Kaiser physician. I also have been substitute teaching in the school district for the last 7 years since I retired, and I also teach Introduction to Public Health at UC Davis. I wanted to, I'm sure you guys are all aware of the ACE studies, first adverse childhood events, but I want to remind you of these. This was actually, research came out of Kaiser San Diego 20 years ago, and showed that students who were exposed to certain stressors, everyday stressors, as children, developed increased health problems as adults. These included emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, single-parent household, imprisonment of a parent, drug or alcohol problem in a parent, mental illness, domestic violence. Those were the initial 8 ideas. Over the last 20 years, this has been expanded to include poverty, racism, psychic traumas of various sorts, home insecurity, family dissociation. And I want to point out that most of these last things, poverty, racism, psychic trauma, home insecurity, family dislocation, are seen in our immigrant and refugee families and children. I think it's felt right now that these stressors work by causing the chronic stress, as many of the counselors and other teachers have mentioned already this evening, and act on a pre-existing stress and anxiety, and in some cases depression, that our students feel, which leads to social and emotional and cognitive impairments, which in turn leads to poor choices in terms of health risk behaviors, accelerated aging, and finally early disease and shorter lifespan. And I think that we can argue about how much these stressors are increased in a given student of an immigrant or refugee family. But I think that we don't know what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. These students have 8 times the incidence in adulthood of drug and alcohol problems, 4 times the incidence of smoking, and twice the incidence of obesity, inactivity, and heart disease. I think that the declaration that we're here to support is one small step that the district can take to make these families and students feel a little bit safer in our school system. I think in general, people already feel safer in school systems than in many other places in the community, but I think we can help with that. And lastly, I think we can help ourselves so that in a year or two, at least myself, that I'm not saying to someone else that first they came for the undocumented, and I wasn't undocumented. And so thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put you under the ACEs topic. Blend over a little bit. And I have another person. Oh, Melissa. They would like to talk about the alternative education and ACEs that you guys have.
That was a great segue.
Come on down.
My name is Melissa McGarry. I am an English teacher at San Antonio High School, and I'm also a parent. I have 2 kids at McNear. The last few years we've celebrated our 90% graduation rate, and the district and the board has acknowledged that part of this success is due to alternative education, catching those kids who fall through the cracks. I know every teacher in this district would say they would like a reduced class size, but for alternative education, it's critical. The district has spent some effort and money training us about the ACEs study, and to refresh, ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and the study, as the doctor, thank you, summarized, shows how multiple traumatic events affect people in their learning. And Nikki Jackson, our district guidance coordinator, has done an excellent job training us on trauma-informed schools, not only the alternative ed schools, but I know she's done trainings at other PD days. So in alternative education, the majority of our students have at least some kind of trauma that they carry with them. Some have multiple traumatic events going on in their lives. Their safety needs have to be addressed before their academic needs can be. And in order for them to feel safe at school, they need strong attachment with their teachers. The counseling presentation that went just ahead of us mentioned a Press Democrat article that reported that police are responding to more and more mental illness reports. We can help prevent this. One of the most significant things I learned in the ACEs study is that research showed that the presence of a consistent, caring adult can prevent and even reverse the damage from toxic stress. At San Antonio High School, we're a family. We serve the kids mentioned in the counseling presentation who need a small, nurturing environment. With our classes, if our classes push to 20 or over, we're going to lose the ability to really get to know our students and monitor student relationships. Some of our students come to our school specifically to get away from bullying that the big schools can't see or hear. And I'm not criticizing the big schools in any way, it's just that there are a lot of kids and it's harder to see. We see bullying when it happens and we can prevent those most vulnerable students. Teaching English, I have to teach a lot of tragic stories. Remember American literature, Edgar Allan Poe, Romeo and Juliet? There's a lot of stories that I have to give trigger warnings. I have to discuss these with the counselor. Sometimes I need to come up with an alternative assignment, and sometimes, rarely, we need to shift a student's schedule because of something that's just too fresh in their life. Also, working with these students can create a high burnout for our teachers because with trauma, they bring big behaviors. One of the ways we combat this burnout is through our weekly kid check, where we problem solve and we discuss strategies for each individual student we see struggling. We're working really hard to serve our students with our limited resources. We've added an extra period onto the day for students who are failing several classes. Every student has a mentor teacher that they meet with at least once a month to track their progress toward graduation and encourage them on their future plans, help them come up with a future plan. We bring in guest speakers to help them think about their futures. One of the ways the district has attempted to fill our students' schedules is through online learning. And I don't know how online learning complies with Common Core standards because there's no collaboration, there's no communication. I'm not sure how creativity plays in there, and I see very little critical thinking. But I know our students do not learn well through this program. They need a teacher to give them the personal connection so they can see the relevance to the lesson. They are not engaged, and we can't replace teachers with online learning. Every year at our graduation ceremony, we have a couple students speak, and many of you have had the opportunity to see these students and hear their speeches, and they bring us to tears with their stories. Every year we hear the students attribute their success academically and emotionally to their close relationships with their teachers. Alternative education needs to stay alternative, and it can't and it won't if we don't limit our class sizes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I like the hearts, though.
Jazz hands.
Yeah, jazz hands. Elise Vosberg, speech and language specialist. Come on down.
Hello, board. I'm here representing all of the speech and language specialists from Petaluma City Schools, including those from the South County who are under our umbrella. And I'm here because there are fewer and fewer of us. It's hard to find speech and language specialists. And I appreciate the fact that the district has been looking to put us on a different pay scale to attract people to come to our school. However, in the last few years, we've been looking for speech and language specialists, and they get job offers from other districts that we should have parity with, to the north, to the south, and they choose not to work for us. So therefore, we've had to hire agency people, contract people who cost you far greater than what you're paying us. And we feel that this is unfair. we feel that many of us have been in the district and are very dedicated. I've been working here for 18 years, and most of the speech and language specialists have been with us for about that amount of time. And so recently we were presented with what the district had come up in terms of thinking about what they might offer us. And it was an incentive to bring in younger, more energetic speech therapists, but it would not touch any of us because it would put the new people up at the 16th step, and that means that none of us would get increases. Most of us are at the top of the pay scale already. And we were told that you also would increase our school year by 10 days and pay us for that. However, we are service providers, and those 10 days there would be no one to provide services to. So we really would like the district to rethink this, and because we're dedicated, we're professional, we're so compassionate. We work with kids. A lot of times we get the kids that nobody else wants to work with, and we spend a lot of time with them. Our job has really changed. We're not only speech and language therapists. With the increase in the autism spectrum community, those kids spend a huge amount of time in our offices, and we're doing a lot of social pragmatic skills with them. So I really would like you to reconsider how to compensate us so that we want to stay. I love the kids, I love my staff, and I would like to stay in this district, but it may get to a point where we all need to look elsewhere. So I appreciate the opportunity that we can come and present this to you, so that as you're thinking about how to make it equitable and to be respectful to our group, because I felt that many of my peers felt that it wasn't a very respectful offer that was being put out on the table. And we would like to be part of the decision making, and I know that the district is all about shared decision making. So thank you, and hopefully we'll work it out.
Thank you. I have a personal story. My son was part of your speech and language program, and I'm very fortunate at the wonderful job y'all did with him, so he can talk without anyone noticing that it took him a long time to talk. So thank you. Jeannie, Rachel.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Praetzel. I teach second grade at McDowell, and I have a son in seventh grade at the junior high. I'm wearing 3 hats tonight. One is blue, one is red, and my other one really doesn't have a color, but I've been speaking to you about this issue for a few years now. Some of the other speakers have addressed the issue of some of our most vulnerable and needy students in this district, many of whom attend McDowell and McKinley. And I'm speaking to you tonight about the bilingual resource teacher position. I don't know if you know the history of how that position came about. Originally, we had a lot of bilingual instructional assistants that provided help in all different ways to students, and there was kind of a top-down decision made about 5 years ago against the will of every single English learner advisory teacher to replace all those people with teachers. We had an incredibly hard time finding qualified people to fit that position. I've sat on numerous interview committees. The job description is just unbelievably unrealistic. We gave, after finding no one to fill the position last year, the committee gave the district office a lot of input about how to reword it and rework it to make it more doable. We still have not been able to find anyone. And in the meantime, we have nobody helping us out in terms of curriculum or support. We've had 4 newcomers this year. We're scrambling to find people to give them even the extra services, a little bit of extra services, a little bit of newcomer ELD. And we don't have those bodies. We're creating our own curriculum. We don't have the time to do that. And our kids are not being served. And all this time, while we don't have this person, I understand that you guys get that this is a real challenge, but the money for that position is sitting here. It's not coming to us, where we could be hiring instructional assistants or even a substitute to come in and be an extra body to do some extra work, or some money where we could be supplementing with additional books or materials or licenses for read alouds. But all that money is just sitting here, and that doesn't seem right. And meanwhile, our kids are suffering. The most vulnerable students in our district are really being hurt by what's going on here. So I would like to advocate for you to take that. We've gone over a year now with nobody in that position at McKinley or McDowell. I think those funds need to come back to our school and be serving the students that they're supposed to be serving as allocated in our LCAP. And that I'm asking you, if we go forward, we're flying that position right now, and if we continue to not find anyone to fill that position, that money needs to come to our site so we can serve our kids. So I presented things to you guys in the past. I know you can't respond to me now. In the past, I've emailed you and I've not had a response, but I want a response on this issue. I feel like all of us teachers at McDowell and McKinley and all the parents in this district and all these little kids that are coming to school that are not getting what they are supposed to be getting need an answer for this, and we need a solution.
Thank you very much. Erin Van de Veen.
Good evening. Multiple keys. All right, I wrote it down for everybody. My name is Erin Vandermeer, and I'm a teacher at Kenilworth Junior High School. I'm also a union officer. And I'm here to talk about a couple of concerns regarding our most recent contract, which expired last summer. I know at this point there is concern regarding our positions being too far apart to come to an agreement regarding negotiations right now. And it concerns me, and I'm hoping that that sentiment doesn't come simply from a position of dollar amounts. Personally, I feel that there are still some items that are not tied to finances that could be negotiated. My personal pet peeve, a simple one that I feel can be easily taken care of, are teacher work days. I've been around since the early 90s, aka the Chuck Cadman days. And during that time, it was clearly understood that teacher work days were the days that were afforded to teachers as the paid days to do all the things that you need to do when there are not students there and we don't have meetings. You get two of them, 1, 2. They're distributed differently in grade school and secondary. But those are those two you do. And we all know that teachers do a lot more than that to prep and plan for their school year. But those were always sacred. Those are the things that we were given that one day. And currently, in our negotiations, we've noticed recently that there have been meetings and there have been some trainings that started to fall on those days. And so we tried to discuss that and say, well, teacher work day, let's define it. And the district wasn't willing to do that. And we feel that that's a very simple thing that can be afforded to us. And it shows a lot of respect for all the extra work that we do. Okay. That doesn't cost a single dime, yet nobody's willing to acquiesce to that. Like, just define a work day as a non-task time for teachers to prep and plan. Okay. There are many other things that are more about how our contract is written and updating what we feel are respect issues that aren't necessarily about dollars, that are still out there that we can discuss. And we're hoping that those are things that we still can come to some sort of compromise on, and that hasn't been happening. Okay. And currently we feel that our teachers deserve and actually demand a better contract than what's being offered to us right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Sandra, oh, sorry. Sandra Lexi.
If I can get out. Yeah. Hi, I'm Sandra Larson. I'm a resident of Petaluma. I teach second grade at Valley Vista, and I'm also PFT president. And I'm here tonight to clarify some misinformation that's gotten out. The first one was the superintendent's blog dated February 28th, where he stated that we've been deficit spending for 5 years. So then I went to the unaudited actuals, 15-16, and I saw that there was some carryover. There was a surplus. So I don't understand how we can be putting out that we deficit spent 5 years in a row when there was indeed a surplus last year. The second one, the Artist Courier article dated March 9th stated that teachers got a 5.6 overall salary increase for 14-15. That statement was also attributed to Mr. Callahan, so here are the facts as we know them. We began taking budget cuts in the form of furloughs in 2008. It took us 5 years to get back to our 2008 salary. In 2014, we got 2.5% on schedule, another 2.25 off. We lost that 2.5 the next year. The next year, we got a 2% on and 2% off. This year, the 2% off we lost, so we actually took a 2% pay cut this year from what we had last year. There were 2 days added, so I believe that's where the 5.6 came from, but we worked those days and we're merely paid our daily rate of pay. So that is in no way considered a raise. But this district or board did reclassify some administration positions to be assistant superintendents. That salary changed from 2014. The CBO salary went up 17.5%. Ed services went up 11.5%. HR went up 8.4%. And student services had a salary increase of 10.6% since 2014. That's not counting STIRS increases or anything else for them. In addition, we do know that positions were added. The total salary increases just for those changes in designations is over $65,000. Multiply that times 3 and you're really close to $200,000 over 3 years just to reclassify some people and give them higher raises. These changes were made in a time that our superintendent considered us to be deficit spending, so somehow that got through. And this is also a year where Willie Brown's not being offered. Willie Brown is such a small part of what you could give to the employees who took all those pay cuts from 2008 till 2014. Their retirements are not going to be the same. We all took cuts. In no way are any of our members whole if we were back in 2008. Also, the highest paid employees get a car allowance of $21,000 a year, and all admin get their phones paid for it. And that's also another $21,000 a year. And it just brings us to the point that budgets set priorities. There's a set amount of money, and you can set a priority. And the priority needs to go to paying your employees what other districts around have been able to do. And I think you'll hear that from specialists, from classified, and from PFT members. And finally, I'd like to talk about impasse. PFT feels in no way are we close to impasse. We were shocked when it was brought up so early in the process, and that it's been brought up again that you directed that. We would like you to direct your team to bargain with us in good faith. This Friday, we have a day scheduled. As Erin pointed out, there are many things in which money has nothing to do. It's all about respect for us as professionals. So thank you.
So on that note, there was a couple things that were said that
I thought we weren't.
For point of clarification, okay. This is a very touchy subject because it's negotiation, okay. So I'm not going to reference it, but I would like to talk to you about getting back to some information because some of those figures and where the money comes from, I can tell is clearly not understood because clearly what Sandra understands and what I understand.
I just went to the end
are two different things. So let's take 5 minutes after so I can make sure that. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, so that's the public comment that's not on the agenda. So I know there's a lot of you in the room that are for the other issues. So hold on just a second and we'll get there. The next item on the agenda is item 9, report on activities and correspondence of school board members. I have a little bit of a list here. So since the last meeting, we've done site visits at Grant Elementary, Pengrove, Cherry Valley, San Antonio, Carpe Diem. We went to a play at Casa Grande, Murder in the Air, which I heard was exceptional. The auto shop study session, the WASP, a meeting for the WASP accreditation visit for the adult school, the PAX meeting at McKinley, and the Ray Lozano night at the Elks Club, which had a wonderful turnout of over 175 people. All right, next item, number 10. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say it before people leave. On public comment, I just wanna let you know, because I know it's hard that we can't talk back. After the auto shop study session the other night, there was a lot of people that were very concerned and upset, not mad or anything, but very concerned about this issue. And at the end of the meeting, I said to the superintendent, I said, you were very patient and I felt like you were really listening, and I thanked him. And he turned to me and he said, that's the easy stuff. Because everybody that was in that room was there for students. And that's how I feel with the public comment tonight, including the staff. So thank you very much for all of your general heartfelt concern for taking care of what's best for students. It means a lot to us. Okay, number 10, approval of consent agenda by consolidated motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That takes us to item 11, action items. However, I was wondering if I could get a motion to move a discussion item up before the action items, which is 12.1, administration and human resources. 12.11, the privacy policy, because we have a lot of folks in the room that are here to speak to that.
So moved.
Second. Fabulous. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to skip our action items momentarily, and we're going to take our discussion item of 12.11, privacy practices, and I'm going to start with the public comments. And Vicki Meister, are you here? You are here. Can I take you first?
We have a woman who's waiting with 2 kids to
That's
speak, and we're gonna go tell her that.
Great, I will, and if you'll tell me her name, I'll take her after Carla. I'll take you, then Carla, and if you'll tell me her name, she can be third.
Okay.
You can come on up though, if you'd like to start.
Morning. Good meeting tonight. My name is Vicki Meister. I coordinate the McDowell School Family Resource Center, and Carla Lunabus will be up here soon. She's one of our bilingual family mentors, as is Anna Bellick, a new bilingual family mentor. And we work with families in need, in crisis, needing to understand the school system better, needing a variety of types of support at McDowell and increasingly at other district sites. I was really pleased to see your privacy policy. We are getting pretty much dozens of families, immigrant families, who are just terrified about some of the federal policies around increased immigration enforcement and enhancement. We're seeing how it affects the kids in their learning. Carla has some specific stories to tell you as well. And my personal feeling is that our district, as a number of others in the county have done, needs a strong public statement to let our immigrant families know that we support their children's right to an education. We will not compromise their personal information. They have a right under the law to be educated, and that we're there to support them in whatever legal ways we can as they struggle and suffer. We had yesterday a referral to the Family Resource Center from a teacher at McDowell, one of the youngest, teacher teaching one of the youngest grades. The little 6-year-old came in and her mom had been in a minor car accident. They were okay, but the other driver jumped out of the car, started screaming about Donald Trump to this Latina woman. The translator's the 6-year-old girl. She has been coming to school traumatized. We've had the counselor talk with her. And so we're seeing, even in ways that we may not, that we don't have control over that driver, but to assure our families that we have support at school, that we have a safe environment, that we see them as valuable, that we see their contribution as valuable, is just critical. Your time is limited. We can give you a whole variety of other types of examples, but this issue is really affecting hundreds of students and families. McNear, now McDowell, then McKinley will be providing workshops on Know Your Rights. Every human being in the U.S. has some rights, regardless of immigration status. We'll educate on that. Families want to know, how do I prepare for my citizen children? What if, if my husband is taken away, if I'm taken away? So there are documents that families can use to prepare. So we'll be providing information, knowledge, and then support to help families cope and help the kids cope with what other crises. You know, when you got the 6-year-old kids translating for mom about, you know, what's going to happen? Are you going to get deported because you had this minor car accident? It's just tragic. So I want you to know that the Family Resource Center is here to help both other sites, other students, but we really are counting on you to come up with a strong statement supporting our immigrant families and letting our families know that ICE, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, will not have open entree to our schools. And I know that's what your policy says, so we're grateful for that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Will you publicize those workshops or
Yeah.
events?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Will be on the website or?
Yeah, I don't have them on the district website, but yes, I hope that we can work with David and maybe have an FRC presence on the district website. That's one of our upcoming goals.
And we will talk more. So just so you know, these first two state speakers are staff that I've relied on a lot lately to find out what's going on in our schools and how we can get our resources spread out. So we'll talk more with them after public comment. And I should have counted these and done a timer. And I'm sorry, Carla, go ahead.
Tonight, I come in here as a family mentor for McDowell McKinley School. I come in here because I'm Antu and I'm immigrant. And I want to check, and as a professional too, this is a very hard time. And I face every day kids and family in crisis. And I need to support these families and I need to say something to these families. We was working with families who have babies, families who are taking classes in McDowell to be better parents and to be better citizens. And we need to get answers to these families. And as a man too, I want to answer you from the district. I have 2 kids in here, one in Valle Vista and one in Petaluma Junior High School, who has friends who are immigrants. I don't know the status of the family, but I want to be sure that the friend is going to be over there, the family is going to be over there, and I want to be sure that to say something to these kids. They had big picture we had yesterday. This little girl today, she came to me and says, "I need to know what happened with my mom." And she started to cry and said, "I want to introduce my teacher." And it was so beautiful when she said, "I want to introduce my teacher," because she knows that the teacher was at support. She feels safe with the teacher, she feels safe in the school, but she's scared his mom is not going to pick out her from the school. What happened? And I had mom to say, "What happened today? I need to talk with my kids. Is somebody, I know pick out you, who is going to pick out you from the school and you are going to be safe." But it's so hard for a little kid and for all the kids too to understand that maybe mom and dad is going to disappear and where they're going to be. And there is some of the kids never be in other country and all being here. And they can imagine how be in Mexico, Guatemala, or in other place. And it's so hard for them. And I had today, one of the man told me, and I said, "You know, I'm so worried because my kids is very good student. He want to be in 7th grade McKinley, and they asked him to need to be tested first to go to. Man want to be in anywhere, but he want to stay in McKinley. He feel he's safe over there. It's a good school for him, and he's projecting to go to a university. And so they did the test, and he was very fine at this. My mom said, "You know, now I can say you are going to be here. Maybe we need to move." And I don't know what is going to happen. So it's so hard because every day they need to be looking day for day, Is going to be here, or I'm going to be in other place? I'm going to be with my kids, or I'm going to be, I don't know. So for me as a professional, it's really hard too. I'm very glad that I have people who help me to handle the situation. Sorry.
You're going to have to stop making me cry.
It's hard because when you see this kid, when you see this mom, that is very good mom, that is very good kids, they only want to be in here. The moms, maybe they may something to, they are here because they feel they get a good opportunity. They don't have opportunity where they was living. I know moms who was running for some violence in the place where they was living. They're single mom, go to 2 jobs, working with this kid, and this kid is amazing. I had other moms who just said, Carla, you know, let me talk to you, can you help me with some papers? And I said, yeah, what happened? And why are you so happy today? And she said, because my girl is engaged in the program. So I went to Magali yesterday, and I participated in the meeting, and I feel so strange because there was an all Hispanic family over there. And I said, are you sure you want to be over there? Or you want to keep me here in McDowell? And I said, no, my daughter is sure she's going to be over there because she's going to be a doctor. So I was helping this family, or I was in the program when mom stayed with this little girl. She was 3 years old when she came to the program. Mom was speaking Spanish as a second language. She was speaking other language from Mexico. And when she told me about that, wow, so amazing, right? This girl had so potential, and all the family support her so much, and everything now is not stable. And I don't have the words to say, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. We need to be ready. And it's hard to.
Will you stay in case we have questions?
Yeah, I want to be.
Okay. And I thank you. I've seen you on a couple of days now where you've come from home visits.
Yeah.
And you're making a big difference, so thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. Okay, so I've got 10 other speakers. We're gonna have to keep to about 2 minutes per person. How, does the woman with the baby wanna come? Is that you? Come up. And what's your name?
Carolina Gonzalez.
Okay, I will find your card, you go ahead.
Sure.
There, I found you.
All right, good evening. So as an immigrant and a mother of two, it is difficult not to feel fear of what is happening right now across the country. My son will be entering transitional kindergarten next year, and the last thing I want as a mother, or I want for any mother, auntie, grandma, grandfather, is to, regardless of their immigration status, is to feel fear every day when sending our kids to school. Feeling scared that our kids are not going to a safe place, fearing that the worst can happen to them in their own school anytime right now. Our children don't need to witness the hate and horror of these times. We must do everything necessary to protect their civil rights and their rights of their families. Excuse me. We need to make sure Petaluma schools are safe havens for them and for everyone. We turn on the news and we see parents being taken away from their children in their own school, in front of them. Just imagine how traumatic it will be for a child of any age to be taken away from their families, from their friends, in their own school, or to have a family member taken from them right in front of their school. Imagine also how traumatic it will be for the other students, witnessing their friends and family taken away, just suddenly gone, probably forever, ripped from the fabric of our community. We are talking here about our children, and our children need us more than ever. We cannot let them down, and we cannot let their innocence be broken and their families taken apart. Petaluma is a family town, and we must live up to the best of who we are. We must protect every single child and every single family with the safe haven policy. Our children are the most vulnerable and the most innocent. If we don't protect them, then who will? We need to act, and we need to act. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I didn't get his name horribly wrong. Zara? Zara? Zaira? So sorry. No worries.
work on one, I don't like to interrupt. I think it's really rude. So we're just going to do the 2-minute timer, and when you hear it,
Okay.
you can start your wrap-up.
I'll try and make it short. So my name is Zara Garcia. I've been undocumented for 27 years of my life. I was unaware of my legal status until I was 15. Thankfully, because of the deferred action of childhood arrivals, I had permission to come out of the shadows. So my family and I have endured a lot, which you've already heard in the news. And it was my reality. And my father was detained by ICE. He was in there for about a week. And it wasn't easy. And it was due to a tail light, which led to the question every undocumented immigrant fears the most: license and registration. So now, my father was 44 years old. I want you to picture a student behind that wheel. Our students who roam through the high schools, are in classrooms, because back when I was undocumented, I had to make up stories on why I couldn't attend my senior trip to Cancun, or why my parents couldn't help chaperone overnight events. Looking back, I was scared for my future, but never once did I feel scared at school. I was determined to make something of myself. Fear only kicked in out of school grounds. Under Trump's era, there is uncertainty, and as a resident of Petaluma and as a mother, I am extremely concerned about our kids in our community. So our community needs to know exactly how a school will respond should ICE or other members of law enforcement appear on school campuses. We want our students to simply worry about that math test. We want them to figure out what they want to do with their lives in peace. So we want our students to feel safe. No student should have to worry about ICE coming in or waiting outside school grounds. No student should be living in constant fear, am I next? Not in our schools. Every student deserves their best chance at education. So board members, as leaders of the PCS, I thank you, and I hope that you guys will stand up for those who need a voice. And I'll leave it at Albert Einstein said, "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it." Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Sam Tolman?
Hi, my name is Sam Tubman. I've lived in Petaluma since 1982. My son went to Petaluma Junior High and Petaluma High School. I very much appreciate the fact that the board is considering something. Unfortunately, I think there's a problem with transparency here, which is not going to allow proper public input. I've got a master's degree, and never would I have guessed that this item titled Privacy Practices covers, I'm not sure exactly what you're calling it, but let me just use the word safe haven. There are a number of us who are allies of folks in the Latino community, and we're really here to support them. There is a large group of students from both CASA and Petaluma High School that want to speak on this issue. And again, because we had no idea it was an agenda item, they're not here to speak. Those of us who are here, which make up the bulk of those 10 speaker cards, have not had the opportunity to look at what I understand is the policy or whatever it is that is in front of the board. So we're really not in a position to comment on it other than to agree that there is an absolute necessity that the board do something. So my request to you all is that you schedule another public input session before you schedule a vote, so that you can get the input of the community. And I think particular areas that are of concern is how will any policy be noticed to parents? What is the follow-up that's going to take place? But again, we really haven't had a chance to go through the whatever this is and really look at it, and look at it in comparison to what other districts in Sonoma County, the state, and the country are doing. So again, I request that you schedule another public input discussion session.
So, to let you know, all policies have to go through several readings. 2 readings? Gary, 2?
Yeah.
2, and on the second one, they're done?
Yeah.
So this automatically has to go on for a second reading at the next meeting. But because this is on the agenda, this isn't something where we can't talk about it tonight. So we're going to talk about it at great length.
Well,
so
this one isn't a policy. This is administratively what we're doing right now.
Right, well, that's what I'm trying to convey.
Yeah.
They'll get to know how
staff's gonna be trained, how people are gonna be noticed, so stay tuned, and again, if you still have more concerns, I'm happy to talk with you at another time, and also at the next meeting.
Well, can I ask a clarifying question, because I'm not really understanding?
So it won't be on for our next reading?
No, this is an information update of what we're doing administratively right now to ensure that all of our students' privacy is being protected. And we're going to go into detail in a moment.
Okay,
when we get there.
Again, I'm just trying to understand the process. So what is the board going to vote on? Are you going to?
This is what we're doing, so you don't have to fear that it's not gonna be, it's gonna get a no vote tonight.
Okay, well, I have a different fear, and that is, we feel very strongly that the board should be taking a leadership role and should pass a resolution. So, again, the lack of clarity because of the obscure nature, for those of us who can't read between the lines of this agenda item, really has made it impossible for us to give what apparently is adequate feedback to the board about what we feel your role is, and also for you to get the input of other folks from the Latino community, and particularly students. So again, I'm requesting that before there's a vote on this, there be
There's not going to be a vote on this. This is what we're doing.
Okay,
So
then
let's go over it and.
Well, let me then make the request that there be an agenda item on the board developing a policy to deal with this issue. Because in your role as policymakers, that seems to be the most appropriate way this should happen. And it is the way it has happened in many other districts.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay. Elaine Daly.
Hi. Hi. Hanging in there. My name is Elaine Daly, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a mother in Petaluma School District. I've been practicing psychotherapy for 12 years, and I specialize in trauma and all the negative effects it has, both while it's occurring and the lasting consequences. I'm concerned both professionally and as a parent that our school district has not yet made a public statement expressing their clear intention to be a safe haven for our students. It is quite clear that statements made and executive actions taken by the president and his administration regarding mass deportation, as well as the looming threat of ICE swooping in to tear apart our families outside of schools, sounds like we're clear on that, that's good, is sending huge ripples of trauma and fear throughout our community. Many students at our school are feeling this. I'd like to take a moment to talk about the neuroscience of trauma as it relates to learning and education. Living in constant fear impacts the way the brain functions. Simply put, there's 3 parts of the brain: the survival brain, the feeling brain, and the thinking brain. The survival brain kicks into gear, and there's fear, the thinking brain shuts down. And it literally cannot function. So when the survival brain goes into fight, flight, freeze, or shut down, which is like the last one we don't want, well, we don't want many, but the thinking brain turns off, and it literally cannot function. For our students, this means that not only can they not learn math or history, they have less effective short-term memory, they're more likely to act out, and they will definitely not be doing their homework. It's physiologically impossible. Logic, reason, and information processing all shut down when fear is activated. If we don't make schools overtly known as safe havens for our students, school is no longer a place of learning and safety. And I know people have spoken about that, and it feels really critical that students can come to school for the 30 hours a week, usually minimum, that they're there and be like, okay, this place, there's people that I can count on and I can learn and I have a chance. So that's really important. We want to have our students have their thinking brains online to make good decisions and find trust in other people. And part of that is having adults that they feel are safe to go to. So the counselors are so awesome and supporting that, and the teachers being trained and understanding what kids look like when they're in fear and when they're acting out, that it's not just that they're a pain in that it's that they're actually in a fight mode and that they're scared and that that's how they respond. So really making a huge statement for that is critical, and that's what I feel like a lot of us are here to ask tonight. The mission statement of the Petaluma City School is quoted to say, "The Petaluma City Elementary and Joint Union High School districts are committed to providing opportunities for all students to be challenged and motivated in school so that upon graduation they will be successful in their future educational endeavors, career, and community. This mission is only possible if the school environment is upheld as a safe and protected space for all students." Please make a public statement, a clear and loud statement, and train the teachers, and maybe we're going to hear all about this, and I'm going to say, oh, good. That is really overt, and that our students come to school and their families send their students to school knowing that it's a safe place.
Thank you. Caitlin Quinn.
Hi everyone. My name is Caitlin Quinn. I'm a proud product of Kenilworth and Casa Grande High. I've lived here since 1993 when I was 6 months old. If I could have chosen to been born here, I would have. Wasn't really my choice. But I chose to move back after I graduated from Cal, and I love being a part of the community, and seeing huge turnouts like this makes me so happy to be back in this community. So I want to talk about what it was like being a student at Casa Grande. I recall white students shouting "La migra," to try and intimidate and scare Latino students. I graduated in 2011. This was not that long ago. I can only imagine that it's gotten more hostile since then. I remember when students were waving Confederate flags on the back of their trucks, and sure, free speech, that's their right, but students should feel safe coming to school, and Casa Grande was always a place that I felt safe, partially because of the awesome teachers that are there. Pay them more, please. And other wonderful programs that I did that helped me really succeed and get into Berkeley and make a lot of life choices that I'm really proud of. But I was very fortunate, and I, in my time at Cal, met a lot of students that were undocumented and talked about the fear that they felt in their high schools, and I don't want that for any student anywhere, but especially not in Petaluma, where I had such a nurturing, positive experience. Like so many people have said and proven scientifically, that's just not fair, and that's not what we're in the business of doing if we're trying to educate students and make them good members of their community and get them involved in the future. I don't believe in respectability politics. I think if a student doesn't want to be a good student and doesn't want to follow the rules, they still have rights and still deserve to be protected, and even if they're a brat and acting out, that doesn't mean that they don't have rights and don't deserve respect. So I think that while we should protect and be proud of the students that are doing really well that are undocumented, we still have a moral and legal obligation to protect all undocumented students and their family members who are undocumented. Thank you.
Thank you. Harmony Hayes.
Hi, my name is Harmony Hayes. I'm a parent in the Petaluma School District, and I'm here also in support of these same issues. As you've already heard, lots of compelling voices asking you all to make a bold statement, a public statement, which it sounds like you're already considering, which is wonderful. And I think, as you've already heard, it's so important for students to feel safe, and it's for the best health of our community. Children living with the terror and threat that any day their family could be ripped apart, cannot learn or reach their highest potential. We may not be able to stem all of their worries, but at least they can feel safe at school and trust the adults that are there with them. As folks have already shared, people who have expressed fear and anxiety and confusion regarding the ability of ICE to enter school property, I think there's a lot of confusion around that, and so making a district policy that's very clear and public and available would help calm some of those fears. And I hope that that the policy that you're already considering is clear, and that it's clear in the fact that information will not be released to ICE agents, and that any request for documents or access to school sites by an immigration enforcement officer would be forwarded to the superintendent's office for review to ensure the safety of all students as well as compliance with state and federal laws. I know that there was a similar resolution passed the Sonoma Valley Unified School District, and so I would hope that a similar resolution would be passed here as well, and that there's good communication with the community around what it is. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Kelly, come on down.
Hello again. It's nice to see when I was here before, it was January 24th, I think I wrote down, when I was imploring you to heed the encouragement of our State Superintendent Corlickson and really take the action that it sounds like you are taking to put policies in place, and thank you. I appreciate that greatly. It means a lot. Would like, and it looks like we can discuss it, maybe some room for changes in there, that it's a wonderful first start. I feel like there are a couple gaps, looking at what some other districts have done and put in place. But I am ecstatic and know that we have a lot of support in this room tonight, a lot of people who couldn't make it, people who had to leave, and a lot of voices that really wanted to be heard, a lot of important students in our community, Latino students who wanted an opportunity to speak, and parents and Latino leaders within our community too, who wanted to talk with the board about it. So I look forward to future sessions about it. But you know, I wrote here because I thought we were all going to be begging and pleading and pulling your hair out for something like this. I'm so glad I didn't come to that, but I even wrote that I knew, you know, it was in your hearts to do this, and it's just so wonderful that you are taking action, that we stand with you. We've got the support, the official support of PFT backing this, and we love our teachers and want to help them and give them what they need, like what Jeannie talked about, the great work that Vicky's doing and her whole team there at the Family Resource Center is awesome. So since you know you've got a whole team of people here in the community who's here to support you and wants to get involved and play a role in helping support our whole community. Thank you.
Oh, you're waiting. Rabbi Feldman?
He had to leave.
Darn if I didn't pay better attention in this crowd. Doctor, how do you say your last name?
Okay.
Osake, thank you, come on up. You've got a doctor's signature, you have to admit.
You spoke. I spoke already.
Well, but you had two in there. You had immigration status and you had stress and something else. You had two cards.
No, we had ACEs and
ACEs and stress, that's why I said I'm
I'm
gonna.
sorry, I filled out the card, I thought someone had filled out a card for me ahead of time.
They
And then you didn't, when you were going through them all, you didn't read my name. You went through a bunch of names before the bathroom break, and I thought there wasn't one there, and I filled out another one. So I don't have anything additional to say, except that I forgot the one point last time that I meant to add that other people have brought up, that it's not just physical disease that children with these stressors are exposed to, but it's lack of achievement because of missed school and inability to concentrate. Thanks.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
All right, Peter, here's your second chance.
Thank you.
Yeah, he spoke on school updates and I will see it.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with the board that our school board of trustees, we passed a safe haven resolution at our February 3rd board meeting. Many of the things that were in there was that we acknowledge that all students are a protected class and have a right to education. And we're not going to allow ICE agents on our schools unless they have written permission by the county superintendent. And that we're not going to release any records unless there's a court order that's specific to a specific student, among other things. So, and 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago, I was invited to a community forum on safe haven schools at the Pioneer High School. And there's about 8 school districts that were represented. We were talking about our process. But there were students that spoke. And there was one of your students from Casa Grande High School, a young lady. It was just heartbreaking to see her up on stage talking about how what a great school Casa Grande is. And she's undocumented, and she wants to go to college, and she doesn't know what's going to happen with the DREAM Act, DACA. And she started crying. And back to what was said before, kids can't learn if they're in fear. And I think there's many of our school districts to pass these kind of resolutions or policies, just for at least it would give emotional support to our parents and students that we have their backs. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. So that's our last speaker comment. Do you want to talk, or do you want me to talk, or?
Do you want to go to that? Go back to your action items, then you come back.
No, we were just all on the,
Okay, we can
talk about
discuss
the item now and benefit, yeah.
So David, you want to turn this off?
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're still going to discuss this now, so anybody wants to know what it is that we're doing. That's not a public comment where we're not discussing. We're now going to discuss the action item, not action item, the item. So if you're curious as to what the district's doing in this regard.
I'll speak fast
Don't take off
because
that.
we may lose this at 9 o'clock.
Actually, we're good. I'll turn on the light.
What about mine?
So, you know, this has been, this conversation has taken place in a lot of venues in the district, and as administration of the district, we are acutely aware and concerned about the rights of our kids and our families, and want to make sure that all privacy rights are protected and that students' basic rights of access to free and appropriate public education are honored. And so I'm going to go through it, but I want to start by first saying that the basic, this is what we're planning to do right now. We're not waiting for anything else. We need to move. We need to be prepared for anything. And the long and short of it is, our goal is to train our staff about what happens or what should happen should anybody come and request information about our families or our kids, and it immediately sends them to meet with myself or my designee here at the district office. And that process slows everything down quite a bit, and then we look into working with our legal about what we are required or not required to do, and it's on a case-by-case basis. But as far as our specific steps, and we talked about this with our site administrators, because obviously they're in the front lines with the teachers on this, is we took an amalgamation of the CDE declaration, AXA's declaration, and CSBA's declaration. There's a variety of them out there. Supporting the California Department of Education's declaration that California schools are safe, welcoming, safe places for learning and teaching for all students, regardless of immigration status. Learning institutions that reaffirm federal regulations and state law prohibiting educational agencies from disclosing personal identifiable student information to anyone, including law enforcement without consent of parent or guardian, or a court order or lawful subpoena, or in the case of health emergency. Local educational agencies that do not collect or maintain documents that may be related to immigration status, including but not limited to passports, visas, and social security numbers. In compliance with United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement 2011 policy, which states that immigration enforcement activities will not be conducted at any sensitive location, which includes schools, without special permission by specific federal law enforcement officials unless exigent circumstances exist that are related to national security, terrorism, public safety, or where there is an imminent risk of the destruction of evidence material to an ongoing criminal case. That's where things need to come here, so that we determine that. That's the case. That's not something for a site personnel staff to make that decision.
2 minutes are okay.
Sorry, I can turn that down now that we're not using it for the timer.
That learning environments will not be disrupted by immigration and customs enforcement activities in or around schools and school facilities. So what practices that we put in place are these, related to those basic ideas. Is one, ensure that no students are denied school enrollment or eligibility for all school services because of immigration status. Ensuring district personnel treat all students equally in making residency determinations. Ensuring no district personnel or, and we actually added this because we did not see this in any of the documentation, or before and after school providers inquire about a student's immigration status or requires documentation of a student's legal status, such as asking for a visa or passport during enrollment or at any other time. This would include asking for or requiring a student to apply for a social security number. Ensuring any contact with any immigration enforcement officer or agent will be immediately referred to the Petaluma City Schools District Office located at 200 Douglas Street, Petaluma, California. Only the superintendent or designee shall speak, meet, or provide direction to any immigration enforcement officer or agent prior to entering any school site. This would include, but is not limited to, services of lawful subpoenas, petitions, complaints, court orders, and warrants. 5, ensuring all actions take place between the superintendent or designee and any immigration enforcement officer or agent will be conducted in consultation with district legal counsel. 6, ensuring school parents are made aware in a timely manner of any unsolicited communications made by any outside agency to the school district that involves student and parent privacy information, like we would do in any case. These are things, most of these items we do now. We should be doing now. 7, ensuring school ground staff refer all immigration enforcement officers or agents to the superintendent's office at 200 Douglas Street. 8, ensuring the superintendent and district legal counsel explore all legally permissible actions that may be taken to protect the privacy rights of Petaluma City Schools students and families when requests are made by immigration enforcement officers or agents. 9, ensuring district personnel take all reasonable measures with before after school program providers that have access to student or family information to protect the privacy rights of students and families in the same manner as school district officials. 10, ensuring all teachers, school administrators, or before and after school providers, school and district office staff will be adequately trained on how to implement this policy no later than April 30th, 2017. So that's like within a month. Each staff will have a copy of site procedures available for work reference. So basically it's what happens. This is your steps. Follow this protocol. 11, ensuring staff yet to be hired receive this policy training during the orientation period. And lastly, ensuring all parents receive a copy of these privacy rights procedures in their home language. So we would start first, we would be doing 2 things simultaneously. We would be informing our parents of rights, and we would be starting a training process, working through our principles, making sure that staff know what's the protocols and procedures. It's really pretty basic. If someone comes to make those inquiries, you immediately, what we want you to do is we do want you to get a name, we want you to get any identifiable documentation, and you will be referring them to the district, and you'll also be calling and letting us know who it is and what identification you have seen. And then we will make a determination whether what the next appropriate step is with legal counsel.
And at the same time, letting parents know that someone came to a school site inquiring about them or their student or.
Yeah, it's kind of a that's all happening simultaneously. Is when we find out if somebody's inquiring about somebody's privacy rights, we're going to let them know.
So what was happening at the same time is folks that are here today had gotten in touch with the board, and I responded as the board president. So I started with some of our principals whose population I felt was most affected. Principal Carol Waxman sent me immediately to Vicki and Carla that spoke. At the same time, superintendents throughout the county were dealing with the same issue, and Gary was working on what to do on his end. So once I got some information from our principals, we kind of came together and discussed a lot of the needs. Principals, especially like at our elementary schools, I think our teenagers probably aren't going to talk about it in the large campuses. They're probably not going to run into their principal office every day, whereas a 6-year-old, 8-year-old child's going to show up crying, and that's happened. But so principals know exactly what their policy is and what they can do and where they'll be supported immediately when these things happen. And then also sharing resources. When I went to Valley Vista, Valley Vista was very excited to hear about the things that were being done at the Family Resource Center at McDowell. I desperately need to get connected with them, and I need to know, can someone from McDowell come over here? Can I send people over there? How do I share information and share resources? I found out also, embarrassed that I didn't already know how much work was being done by our staff, which I think happens often. our staff just takes care of their students, and they go into action. And they were able to tell me not only all kinds of stories of how our students and families were being affected, but they had already done several things. They had already held free legal nights with immigration attorneys for families to come. They had a wait list of like 30 people, I think, so they're doing another one. They had 2 of those, and I think they're doing another one soon. It's getting that out to all the schools so people know. So all the things that they were already doing, sharing all those resources, and then putting together information that each school has on, here's what your rights are at Petaluma City Schools, here's what the chief of police, who I've also spoken with, what his statement is about the police department, here's what the Sonoma County Sheriff is saying, here's the resolution from City Council, and here are your resources, here's an immigration attorney night that's coming up. It's putting all this together so every principal and really the first responders in this situation are going to be the front office staff, right? When people come in, whether they're looking for resources or, God forbid, their ICE shows up and that's the first place they're going to go is the office, right? So knowing all these resources and knowing what they're allowed to do, and our intent is to get them off the property and send them down here for the superintendent, or if he's not here, a designee, he would pick somebody as a cabinet, that if he's not here in his absence, who would respond to that, and they would immediately make sure the school is contacting parents at the same time while they're contacting legal counsel to find out how much they can say no to and take care of.
I think that the biggest issue that we have right now, if you're talking about whether you call it a safe haven or safety net, the most concerning issue, if you look at all the scenarios, the worst case, not the absolute worst case scenario, but one of the worst case scenarios, it's the more likely scenario, is a student does not have somebody to go home to on a day. And we don't have an answer for that safety net. Because if there's no safe haven on that emergency card, then we're in a very difficult spot. And so, I've heard that people are taking people off their emergency cards, and there needs to be a safe haven on those emergency cards, and that's not something a resolution is going to solve. That's a community working together to do that, because we have really limited resources legally when we don't have somebody to send a child home to. And I've been in the situation when I worked in a preschool when a parent didn't pick up their child and had to take a 3-year-old to the police station at 8 o'clock at night, because you can only keep them for so long before you have to remand them over. And so that's a reality. It's just to let you know, we've talked about it. We know it's an issue. It's not an answer that you're going to find in our plan.
But these are things we can continue to work on. Do we connect? We've talked, Vicki, Carla, and Carol and I, we've talked about how can we solve this? Can we have community designees where families are connected with people that, that person who's documented and is here is the emergency contact person, so your kids, and that's one of the things with those immigration attorney nights, getting documents notarized so that people can take their children if something happens, if they don't show up at pickup time. And I think some people are scared and are taking emergency contacts off of their list because maybe their emergency contacts are also undocumented because it's grandma or it's auntie or it's the neighbor. And so they don't want an immediate trail to where they are. So those are things we need to continue to work on and share resources and figure out how to help.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. On number 3, I was just wondering, I think it was number 3. Maybe it was number 4. It was who can be allowed to enter the school, and I think it says that federal agents can.
No.
No?
No.
No. It says that even people that appear to have a lawful warrant to subpoena need to be directed here until we talk to legal counsel.
Okay.
There may be times, it's crazy right now. So while I feel like the law's always said one thing and we can count on it, things are very unstable. So worst case scenario, they have to come here. Worst case scenario, after dealing with legal counsel and trying to work the situation out, we have to notify a child. I still can't even believe I would have to say this would even happen. But the whole idea is having people come here to the district office while we're calling the parents, let them know, or the designee on the card that someone is inquiring about their child, which also, then this person is sitting here with legal counsel and superintendent discussing legal ramifications of what we can do to protect this child. The child's being picked up from school. That, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's to also help buy time if there's some, I mean, I can't imagine a situation, right? I can't imagine a situation where ICE gets to come pick up a child, an underage student. But because I think there's a lot of situations right now that we really don't know how things are going to get, that's our intention, is to fight that happening as far as we possibly can, but at the same time notifying parents. Maybe they have a situation or a designee to come pick up children. Karen?
So yeah, jumping on that, we as teachers do run into situations that are heartbreaking like that, and we're trained teachers to know what our response is supposed to be. For us to be worried about being the teachers that situation is very difficult. And I ask that we start figuring out by site what our rapid response team response is going to be.
Yes.
And that we find our community members that can be volunteer to be the person that the children are released to, and that we find the teachers who are willing to be the people that work with these kids.
Yes.
Right in the very beginning as soon as possible, so that we all know there's something taken care of.
Absolutely.
Once we have a plan, we can enact it.
Well, and
I'm not all sure what our jobs are.
right, and that's what this is intended to do, is to get that ball rolling. As principal, actually maybe it was Haugen or one of them said, or maybe it was you. We have a plan for a flood. We have a plan for, we need a plan for this emergency situation as well. Questions? Comments? Questions, comments?
If I can just make a comment, I think this is going to be evolving because we're in uncharted waters. So we might think that we really have good policies and good administrative regulations put in place right now. But 3 months from now, the whole architecture of this thing might change. 6 months from now. So the more input we can get to say, hey, have you thought about this possibility? Because this might become reality, the better off we're going to be. So I believe this document to be fluid. It's a work in progress. It's not in concrete, and it'll evolve over a period of time. So if you criticize something because it's not all encompassing, it's impossible for it to be all encompassing right now. Because we are dealing with a fluid thing. It's dealing with human interaction. We don't know exactly where it's going to go. But I think it's a great start, and I think we need to have this in place.
Let me just say, can I say one thing real quick? I think that one of the pieces are related to this. I think it's actually the easiest to implement this at schools because we are already safe havens. Think about this. If you're a parent and your child goes to that school and you don't sign in and you're walking the campus, that's not okay. And we deal with that right there. Anybody that comes onto our campus is considered an outsider until we say, you're good. You can wear it, you're a parent or a guest that we've approved. So it's just naturally, we protect our kids, that's what we do. And so this is consistent with everything we do. Okay.
What about, how do we plan on ensuring that all parents receive a copy in their native language? I mean, is it going to be sent home written, it'll be on the website, it'll be discussed at a PTA meeting?
Well, the first 2 or 3 languages will be pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it'll be the ones after that that'll be more challenging.
But are we sending them a written copy of this? Is going to be sent home with every student in Petaluma City Schools?
We'll do a combination with email blast, call outs, maybe letters home to specific families. I think we don't have that access.
And I think principal input and family resource input about how to do that is vital as well. And I know that the principals I've spoken with so far, sorry guys, it's been mostly elementary. My apologies for not getting to you about this issue. Want copies of all of these policies, such that they would like all of it at their school sites to give to people. Because a lot of times too, you don't know, again, people are removing their addresses from things, so we might not be able to mail it home. So it needs to be readily available. You have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of guard against sometimes, I don't want to give people a false sense of security either. I mean, we can do these, but in the big scheme of things, federal law trumps. I mean, I'll give you an example. The marijuana laws in California, they're on, the ice is as thin or as thick as the federal government makes it. So I think two things have to happen, well, actually three. I mean, we need to state our policies loud and clear and let every parent know, look, here's our protocols. We will do absolutely the best we can do under these circumstances, but we're beholden to Fed and state to a great degree. Two, I haven't heard too many groups talk about, I've heard about educating them like how not to fall into, let's call it an ice trap, but I haven't heard too many people talking about helping people document themselves, which, right, is the ultimate protection. So it just seems like there's not a lot of that going on, because people can't, I know, afford immigration attorneys. As an attorney myself, I know they're very expensive. But I would like to see groups do more where people who are really bright and motivated put pressure on our representatives that go to the federal, Jared Huffman, for instance, to help with some sort of education so these people at least can get on the track. Because I would think it would show well, bode well, and give them a little bit of comfort saying, I'm as prepped as I can be to get documented. And I think the way it has to happen is it has to be pushed through Huffman and those kind of representatives. I know it's a long push, but I think the immediate protection needs to go down, but we also need to kind of collectively work on that end too, because this is Band-Aids. These are Band-Aids. But ultimately we've got to help these people, you know, get legal status as locked in as we can. Even if it's a creative status, right? If it's a hybrid status. So there are ways.
No, there is not.
No. There's ways to moving forward to come up with creative ways. I'm not right now. I'm talking about thinking outside the box. I'm talking about, I just said, come up with a creative hybrid. I'm talking about we need to do that collectively, put pressure, and that's a solution. So call it, you know, citizen in standing, you know, in waiting, whatever. But there's got to be a...
I will tell you, my counterpart here absolutely hates how we're so beholden sometimes to our state and federal funding and the hoops and the pressure they put on us. So we're always advocating of putting pressure on your state and federal representatives as well. Hold on a second, because I took public comment, so do you have a quick question?
I just was wondering about, like, is there going to be a press release, or will there be any coverage for the larger community to know about this, besides just the communications to parents within the school district?
Yeah, I'll have to work on that with David.
3 reporters ready to come that didn't think this was happening tonight, but if you really wanted to cover this important story and be able to report on it.
I'll tell you one thing I hesitate. I'm going to be really honest with you, right? Really transparent. I'm really nervous about advertising who's in our schools. So when we talked originally, and when I talked to Carol and I talked to Vicki and Carla, I said, we have 2 groups of people generally that need this policy. The people that are directly affected, either because they're not documented or their aunt or their mother, or right? And our community who cares so much about our community. I hear you. Our community wants to know what we're doing to protect our community. I'm a little hesitant to scream to the world who our community is. I'm a little hesitant to draw too much attention to, look at, I'm just telling you, it's my own little fearful. I did not try, and I was telling people to come tonight that it was going to be on tonight. So, I'm just going to be honest, it just scares me. On the day without Latinos, I'm not even going to say it out loud. How many students weren't at school? I would rather not advertise that to the world and instead protect our students. Right. Does that make sense? And maybe I'm wrong, and it's okay. You can disagree with me, you can be wrong, but it's just what scares me. So I think for me, I really want to get to our families and make sure that they understand how hard we're going to work to protect them and to protect their safety. I want them to know that, and I want our community to know that we're doing that. It just makes me nervous because I feel like things are not. I'm a police officer. That's what was my job before here. I come from a law enforcement family. When my father was a police officer, you called immigration and they drove right up and they took the person that you were trying to write a ticket for or whatever. When I was a police officer in San Francisco, that is not what we were taught and that is not what we did. It's very different, right? I'm also an attorney and I know how people interpret laws and bend them any which way they possibly can for themselves. And so it makes me very nervous that I feel like the political scheme right now is not predictable. You used to be able to kind of rely on the law, and lately I'm not so sure. So I thought I was doing a better job at getting the message out to the right people. I will take that because I was working with you and I will be responsible for that. I apologize, but it's made me, I'm a little scared too.
And that's fair, I just want to make sure like we've got the same interest.
Yes.
The people most affected
So,
are
and I was kind of,
communities, the organizations, they go to school, right?
yeah, and I was kind of in talking to the chief of police and in talking to some of our council members, you know, the other thing for me is we are not in charge of a police force. It's a much bigger issue if you're a college campus or a district, a city, or a county who's in charge of a police force, because they're in a really tough situation. You need to make sure if you're going to be a safe haven, whatever, junior college, police department, sheriff's department, that your officers know what your policy is. And so I was very grateful to hear from Chief Savano, his statement, and to hear from I was a little worried about our sheriff's department, was glad to see that, and our city council. And so I'm kind of hoping we can put all of this together for our community and get it out there. I'm gonna take one more question, then I'm not really supposed to be taking public comment, but it's okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Because you just acknowledged the city council, so I was just wondering, you do know that they did pass the
Oh, yes.
resolution.
I was at a school event watching a live feed from Marjorie Hill. So I was watching Marjorie and Israel.
And our police chief was there, and he's been to several of these meetings, and
yes, and I'm working on another issue with Chief Savano. So while I didn't officially meet with him on immigration, we have connected on that issue as well. Erin, you can call me at home.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I know that I probably shouldn't call it, but I just want to thank you guys because I know this is a hard issue, and I feel so good to hear that you guys are being flexible and you're willing to do what needs to get done to keep our kids safe. I agree with you, Sherry. I can hardly even believe that we're in here having this conversation right now. It's outrageous to me. So to know that you guys are here and you're willing to do what needs to get done to make sure these families stay safe, as much as you possibly can do in your power, I really appreciate that. I'm a parent at McKinley. I know a lot of families are worried right now, and I am really looking forward to the day that they get a big statement from their school district that the district is going to do whatever they can to make this not happen. I think that a notice in the red folder going home is fabulous. I think about what about those families that aren't necessarily going to pull those folders out of their backpack because they're going through more traumatic experiences that warrant their attention as opposed to looking. So whatever
we'll
can
have
be
to
done.
just work to get it
Yeah,
out.
totally. And please know that there are a lot of us here that are willing to work with you. We want to be partners with you. We will do whatever it takes to make
Kelly's
this
been
happen.
screaming that from the mountaintops to me, so yes. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. We've been here a very, very long time. Any other comment from the board?
No, thank you for all your input. And
Yes.
again, it's a perfect way of community working with the school district.
Continue to email us.
Yes.
Absolutely. We have other items, so don't anticipate that if you're here for something else, we're still moving along, but if you need to go, we understand. Yeah, nobody wants to hear about the binders? All right, the 11.1.1 purchase orders. Purchase orders, do I have a motion? Yes. They're yelling at me because I'm not ready. So moved. Oh, I have a second.
Second.
You are, see, you're not even ready.
I'm ready, I'm just going to do myself to the next one.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 11.1.2. Ratification of, did I choose Kim? Ratification of warrant register for warrants issued February 1st, 2017 through February 28th, 2017 by Petaluma City Schools.
So moved.
Second.
I recuse.
Aye.
Or abstain, I guess, is the better word.
Okay, so
TV and Mike
Mike and
abstain.
Phoebe are out, and the rest of us all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did I do something wrong?
You gotta do consent.
Oh, I didn't do consent, you're right.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did.
You
No, I
did.
did.
Yes, you did.
You did consent.
You did consent.
It was all in favor.
We don't have a doubt.
Oh, yes.
No, she
I
did.
do have it.
I know she did. 'Cause I didn't. All right, we got it down. Dollar in the key.
Right here, Sue, just look over it, it's right here.
All right, 11.1.3.
Better be safe than sorry.
This is the big one. It's what the binders are for. 11.1.3, approval of the Petaluma City Elementary Joint Union High School District Budget Revision Number 2. And this is the interim report for 2016-17. Take it away, Chris, you waited all night.
Wait, so,
Oh,
You have 5
So
minutes.
moved.
wait, I need a second. I need a second.
Second.
all in favor?
No, you want
I'm teasing you. It's 9:30.
Okay, you got 5 minutes, go.
I've been trained, I don't say a word until there's a first and a second. It
Right.
took me a couple
See,
meetings,
well,
but yeah, I know.
it takes our president a while to catch up. It's only our third month.
All right.
I know,
8 months and 14 days, I'm just saying.
Oh, no.
Okay. Feels a little anticlimactic to be going through this after, I mean, it doesn't feel as important as it felt an hour ago, but anyway.
Just because I love you.
So this is our second interim report. It is our second of 2 interim reports that we have to do. We do one in December, reporting the fiscal position of the district as of October 31st. And then we do one in March, reporting on the fiscal position of the district as of January 31st. So just to orient you to the binders and what's in them, we have various tabs, and I'm going to kind of switch between the PowerPoint that I've done and the binders to kind of orient you to some of the data. As I go through it, I'll kind of talk about what's here for you to reference later, if you're so inclined. All of this information will be online, or it's attached to Agenda Online. So all of the documentation we're going through is actually attached.
Wow, but it's also in here, right?
It's also in there.
So I don't have to go.
No, but others count.
Others can, for the viewing audience. So we just talked about how this is the, oops, kicked off. Thank you. Next slide. Let's talk about that. Okay. Just to let everybody know, we are Petaluma City Schools, but we're made up of actual various charter schools in our elementary district. We have our Pen Grove Charter, our 6th grade academy. We have Live Oak, although it's an independent charter, it's not part of the financial presentation we're doing tonight. For the high school district, we have Mary Collins at Cherry Valley, Petaluma Accelerated Charter, and Gateway to College. We also have our South County Consortium, which is included in our general fund. So when we're presenting this information, all of this rolls up into our general fund except for Live Oak. Okay, so we start with enrollment because enrollment drives the majority of our revenues. And so when I go through the spreadsheets, I'll touch on how some of this stuff has changed, not just our LCFF revenue, but also things like our lottery revenue. So I've included the adopted budget. What were we projecting last June? 7,377, which is below the 7,500 we had October 2015. And then we have, I'm not seeing month 7 on there. It was there. Somehow when I do PowerPoint in a PC and it converts to Mac, we lose some formatting things. But we're now down to 7,447 at this point, so we've dropped about 12 students. This doesn't show it here, but
What's month 3 as of November 4th?
so so there are attendance months. We
Oh,
count
right.
enrollment for 10 months of school, and a month is a 4-week unit. It's not a calendar month, it's a 4-week month, 28 days. So as of month 4, which was attendance month 3 for us, we had 7,459. As of month 7, which is in February, we had 7,447. So we're down 12 students between month 3 and month 7. If you go to the tab called Narrative and Assumptions, the second to the fourth to the last page are enrollment projections that are done. They're about 4 pages from the back. They look like this. They're really tiny. So for those of you who I brought my glasses this time just because. Okay. This actually gives you month 7, so you can actually see the breakdown of month 7. And what these enrollment projections do is they take our current month, month 7, and they project out 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, and I actually added 21, 22 because it actually shows then kind of an uptick in our overall enrollment. So you can see we're projecting almost 100 fewer students next year in 17, 18 34 fewer students in 18-19, 83 fewer in 19-20. Now this is based on cohort projections. In other words, every first grader becomes a second grader, every second grader becomes a third grader. It assumes some attrition at the upper levels. I've reduced it from 20 between the grades to 10 to 15 between the grades to be a little less conservative as we're getting closer to the end of the year. Now that we're at month 7, I feel like I can do that a little bit. Does that make sense? The assumptions are written in below. But these become important for how we're projecting this year's revenue and when we get to the multi-year projections. So they're here for you. While I'm under this tab, I just want to show you a few other things I've included in the binder. I've got the school services dartboard behind it that also provides assumptions that were being suggested to use or recommended to use. And I've also included a glossary of terms right behind that because, as you know, we love to have various acronyms and terms of education.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
It is nice though.
I tried to make it smaller. I'm sorry it's so large.
I'll deny that I forget my glasses. I've been doing good so far.
And somehow the TV monitor went out, so.
No, we're good. I just,
No, we're good. No, it's dark.
No, I had the wrong
We're in the
reservation
black.
somehow. It was first in turn, that was, so I can just, if you use second in turn, it'll take me 10 seconds.
I like that, Dave. That's a good spin right there. We're in the black, Dave.
Let's keep it. Okay, so any questions about the enrollment projections while I have you as a captive audience? Okay.
Well, if you want to quantify, like, just give a round number. What does that mean in lost revenue?
Well, I think what I'd like to remind you is that for Petaluma City, one of the things the state does as a safety net for schools that are, districts that are declining in enrollment is it allows us to use prior year ADA. But the thing that becomes a little bit more confusing or complex for us is that prior year ADA only is for non-charter schools. So our charter schools are current year ADA. Our non-charter schools, we have to use prior year ADA because we're declining. And so we do all of those adjustments when we're doing our LCFF calculations. And then you have adjustments if you have students moving between your charters and your non-charters. So anyway, thank you, David. We can go to the next slide. So some highlights. Let's go to the spreadsheet. So if you go to the comparative spreadsheet, which actually there's a tab that says comparative spreadsheet. I'm going to go through these very quickly. These details are also in the narrative and assumptions, but I'm just going to highlight these. I've got little descriptions off to the side. The first 3 pages is what I'm going to focus on. It's our unrestricted budget. If I'm going too fast, you can slow me down or stop me. You can see our revenue, our LCFF calculations have barely changed. So we're up in net 32,000, and that's because we now have our CalPADS numbers. We now know what our free and reduced meal percentages are, et cetera. We've adjusted for all of that. There's fluctuations between the major categories of funding, but the overall net change is about 32,559. Okay. Going down to other state revenues, you'll see some fluctuations here, most significant of which is lottery. So we were able to take our lottery ADA, which is different than our LCFF ADA, and we project based on $144 for non-Prop 20 and $45 for ADA for Prop 20. We've made those adjustments. We were able to increase by about 69,000. All other state revenues is basically we get some apportionment for assessments that we do, formerly known as STAR testing, and so we've adjusted for actual receipts. And then if you look down, you'll see the other most significant change is between the interagency services between LEAs. One might say, what is that? Well, that is primarily for our pupil transportation and for some of our South County consortium revenues. So as you know, we bill our local feeder districts back. This is where we account for it. So now that we knew what our December 1st pupil counts were, we provided updates to our feeder districts and to Petaluma. What is the cost per student based on our transportation? When we did that, there was some fluctuation between what our revenues are and what their revenues are. And then the 171,000 is we moved all of the daycare, the child cares that we operate, revenues and expense over to the restricted side of the house, which is really where it belongs. So that's why this 171 goes down, but it goes up over in the restricted part, and the expenditures along with it. Okay. Local revenue is simply site donations. We collect a lot of donations. We account for those in restricted, unrestricted accounts for the school sites. So that's money's preserved for them, and our special ed contribution has gone up by about 200,000. So our revenues changed by about 372,000 to the good, and most of that is based on some of those lottery adjustments, a little of the LCFF, and mostly the change with interagency related to transportation.
So what does that mean, Chris? So there's 372,000 that is sort of hanging out there that?
No, it just means our revenues change, our projections. So remember, until we close our books, we don't know what our actual revenues will be.
Got it.
But our projections have increased by 372,000 net. When we go to the expense, we have to look at the expense side second to then see what the overall impact is on the general fund. So hold that thought for a moment.
Okay.
Let's go to the expenditure page, which is the next page. So here we start with salaries, benefits, consumables, which are your textbooks and materials and supplies, and then other operating expenditures such as utilities. You can see that we have fluctuation in the area of instructional. That's primarily related to reconciling position control, any open positions. We've tried to glean some savings, evaluating our substitute budgets. Do we need as much in substitute costs? So there's a lot that goes into salary and benefits, not just our contract positions. Classified salaries, it's the same thing. There's been some movement between 2,400 and 2,200. As we've analyzed positions, we've really tried to fine tune where's the most appropriate account. Is it a clerical type or is it really a pupil support? And that's the difference between 22 and 24. So you can see some adjustments. The greatest change is in the 2,400, in large part because the two positions we talked about at the last meeting, the accountant position and the ed services secretary position. We have taken the budget out for those two open positions to capture that savings in this budget revision. And that's important to note when we start looking at those shifts of how have we addressed some of our deficit spending. That becomes an important piece of it. So we've already identified those as open positions and taken them out. That does not mean that the board couldn't come back and say through all of our committee processes that, no, you have to have that accountant position, Chris. We can always put it back in for next year. It just means we're capturing the savings this year. Does that make sense? Going on to benefits, the benefits change as the salaries change. So if we have less certificated salaries, we have less STRs.
Right.
Health and welfare, we've analyzed our health benefit accounts for things like open positions. If they were open for a period of time, they weren't taking benefits, could we take those down? And so we've made some of those adjustments. Some of these become a little bit of one-time in nature because if it's based on an open position, that savings may not be ongoing. But we feel like those are immaterial in nature, so we're able to just capture it for now.
What about it came up earlier in our meeting about an open position, a salary position? What do you do with that?
So generally speaking, and the speaker was referring to our BRTs, our bilingual resource teachers, and because that's supplemental funding, we have left the cost of those positions in. I think it's important to note, we talked about this last time, that those positions are in the budget at a 0.5 for both McDowell and a 0.5 for McKinley, although they were advertised as a 1.0 because we were having a hard time recruiting. The budget actually in position control and the LCAP reflects a half-time and a half-time at both of those schools. That's still on the budget. We did not capture that savings because it's in the LCAP.
Could one person get a full-time job and move between the two schools?
Yeah, it creates some coordination challenges that usually can be worked out, but absolutely that's always possible. Of course,
It would seem to be a lot easier to hire a full-time position with.
Well, they tried recruiting for 2 full-time positions because we were having such a hard time for it and we couldn't even recruit for that.
So what do we do if we continue to have?
My understanding is, and I think Kim has left, but my understanding is we actually backfilled with bilingual resource aides or instructional assistants. But I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I heard.
Well, she said there wasn't anyone, the money wasn't there to.
Well, the money is still in the budget. It's not at the site level, it's kept at the district level.
So I don't know if they backfilled.
I think what her.
My sense was they hadn't.
Well, maybe Gary, we could get clarification on that at a later point.
Well, yeah, we should talk about that in closed session.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're pushing it. Can we talk about it in
I'm curious.
So going down into the consumables, you're always going to see shifts here because remember when I said those local donations went up, the budgets, the expenditures associated with those local donations will also go up. So if we get a $10,000 local donation, the sites will tell us put it in books, put it in materials and supplies, put it in computers, put it in something. So the expenditure piece will also go up proportionally. Okay? So that's what represents, especially in the consumable area, because that's generally where those monies go. Down in the operations side of the budget, I want to point out 5,500 utilities. So we've reduced those budgets by almost $130,000. And that again is to capture what we're estimating in solar savings. And this may be conservative. I think the savings could actually come in higher based on what we're seeing. Some of the challenges is that the way that we're being billed for what's called a net utility bill, it's not the same as your PG&E works under normal circumstances. So we may get an annual bill every November, you know, and so we're trying to analyze that right now, but we believe at least minimally 127,000, and we'll probably see more savings than that. So that's part of, again, when we get to the ending fund balance and why we've changed the deficit, that becomes a big piece of it.
And that's only a couple months of solar.
Well, since November, December, so it's almost half a year. Half a year, yeah, roughly.
1 month.
January through June would be 6 months, because our fiscal year ends June 30th.
But I thought we didn't have the solar.
They were actually starting to commission them, which is.
October, November. Finished.
They were commissioning them in November and December, it depends on the school site. So some were commissioned earlier than others, and being commissioned really means they plugged them in and balanced them.
Yeah.
So, the other decrease you'll see under 5,800, that's really because we reconciled our teacher induction fees and we moved them into their own category. Other fees, 5,839. Charter schools, we moved to a 7310 on a 7350. 7350 is between funds. So like adult adding cafeteria fund are in the 7350 category. That everything that resides in the general fund, including our charters, are 7310. It still overall went up $100,000, and that's because we've gone through and reconciled how much we should truly be charging for every single one of our categorical programs, including South County. So South County should be a 6%, so we reconciled that to the 6%, which is in the MOU we have. That's the greatest change here.
What sets those indirect rates? Is that contract by contract?
No, it's a great question. For SCO, it's only through the MOU. But the state actually tells us the maximum indirect we're allowed to charge as a district. So our unique approved rate, it changes year to year.
Okay.
And it's right now it's only 2.91, which is very low.
Right.
I can tell you we've done a lot of work on changing how we account for things more accurately. When you think of our 26-digit account code, how we use those fields matters when it comes to indirect. So our estimated indirect right now is closer to 5% for next year.
Okay.
The state also sets maximums, like Title III immigrant ed is maximum of 2%. So then there's some unique nuances from there. Okay, most importantly, look under debt service, and you will see a reduction of $218,000 in the variance. 45,000 of it is that we've reduced that contribution to food service. So we've gone through, and the staffing changes that Ray has made through attrition and through some transfers has made a difference, and we were able to reduce down the contribution by $45,000 to food service. It's something that Ray should be really proud of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Debt service, we've taken out the debt service that we're not going to pay on those Build America bonds, and that's the -66 for principal and the -106. And that's going to be ongoing savings, both of those. Okay? So that gets us to the bottom line. We have been able to reverse our deficit spending of 554 to 400 to a positive 489,000. Now, it's important to note we're still truly deficit spending because we have 1.5 million in one-time money here. So most of these expenditures are ongoing.
Reflexes, Chris.
Goodness. Most of our expenditures are ongoing in nature. Our revenues are not. And so that's what constitutes deficit spending. And we're going to get to the slide here in a minute, and I'll kind of show you how we adjust those numbers for that.
So this 489,000, that's after 1.5 million of one-time money for 16.
That includes the 1.5. So if you took that 1.5 million out, we're deficit spending of roughly $1 million, which I'll show you on a slide when we get there. Okay.
So I think that's what's confusing to people. Like we're not. I mean, in theory, we are deficit spending, but for 16, 17, we're not because we got $1.5 million.
Well, I think we'll talk, when we get to the deficit spending slide, let's talk about that a little bit more. We'll drill down in that for both last year and this year.
It's more a structural deficit.
I think for these purposes.
We're saying we have deficit spending, but because we have one-time money, it's covering our.
So
Right,
the important thing for here is that we've actually made $1 million difference. We've actually been able, through analyzing our revenues and through analyzing our expenditures and doing some of the things that we've already proposed for 16, 17, we've been able to make a difference and decrease the deficit spending that we had projected in the budget. So that's really a positive, good thing for us, okay? If you go to the next couple pages, I just want to highlight a couple things that are restricted. I know it's late and people want to get out of here.
Mary's loving this, Mary's all over it.
So the revenue side, and I'm looking at page 5 of this spreadsheet. So here's the revenue side of the restricted. The preschool, so we've done some analysis. We were able to adjust for preschool grants. So remember, initially, we talked about this early on, initially the preschool funds that support special education preschool for 15-16 were all sent to Petaluma, for the feeder districts in Petaluma. And then SCO made a decision, based on whatever, I'm looking at Mary because, you know, to say, no, it's all going to go back to the feeder districts. So we took it out of our adopted budget, and the feeder districts all put it in their budget. So then we decided as a South County board, no, we really want to have it all here because there's a benefit for districts that don't have any students to still get that money to support the bigger picture, even though they don't have any students. So we put it back in, so that's what that change is. We've also added the college readiness grant. You can see the lottery here. We were able to increase our Prop 20 lottery as well, so it's a positive thing. I think that's it that I want to highlight on the distributed revenues. Just a couple things on the expenditure side, because again, this is all supported by grants. These all have restricted strings attached. If you look down at non-capital and materials and supplies, so materials and supplies has gone down, and that will continue to go down because that's a placeholder for a lot of carryover that then the departments or the school sites push out. So like Title I carryover initially goes into 4330, and then the school sites push it out to other categories. The computer replacement budget, we've put some money in there for the parcel tax to help to start looking at computer replacement plans, especially for our one-to-one. By computer, I use the term loosely. One-to-one devices, it could be laptops, you know, generically I'm saying computer devices. I think that's the majority of stuff, unless there's any questions on it. I want to get to the PowerPoint.
They used all their questions.
Okay. Let's go into the PowerPoint. And if there's another question as we come back, I'm happy to answer. Okay, so so we've got a lot of details. Now let's go back up to the 20,000 foot level and look at the summary. So, so this basically says for our unrestricted and restricted budget, what did we look at first interim, which is the budget revision, number 1, and what are we looking at now at again, the 30,000 foot level. And so you can see our revenues generally, I know, I've got a slide in front of me. So our LCFF revenues haven't changed much. We already talked about that, how it only changed by roughly $32,000. Our federal revenues have gone up. Our one-time state revenues, that's that 1527. Those are the one-time revenues that will not be in the multi-year projections for next year. Other one-time revenues will be in the governor's budget proposal for next year, but only 300,000, not 1.5 million. So it's a big difference. We've got other state revenues went up, and that's because of things like the college readiness block grant that we put in. Parcel tax had no change. We're still estimating it right as we were in the adopted budget. Other local has gone up, and that's for all of those other local things like the money coming in from the feeder districts for South County for transportation. Those are considered local revenues. So as we've adjusted those, our local revenues go up. Expenditures, this is again the same information we went over, this is just looking at all those subtotals instead of the detail. You can see that our expenditures also went up. We went from 84, just under 85 million to just over 85.1 million. So our expenditures have also gone up, but not as much as our revenues have gone up, and that's what has helped reverse, at least what looks like on paper, the deficit spending. Okay? So here's a snapshot that says total revenues, total expenditures, what's the net? And you can see we are projecting negative 3.1 million. That's everything. That's unrestricted and restricted. It's normal to see deficit spending in the restricted side of the house. So you can see how it's gone from 3.1 to 2.3. And then you can see the change in the ending fund balance. So go on to the next slide. And then the next one just talks about the components of ending fund balance. You can see we've got our beginning balance, and then what is that 9.8 million made up of? We've got 81,000 revolving cash, we've got our 2% reserve of 1.7 million, one-time mandated costs, we're setting that aside of that 1.5 million. The South County has their own ending fund balance, and that ending fund balance is right now at about 463,000. So we don't own that, South County owns that, so we pull it out and set it aside. We know we have curriculum adoptions coming up. We're estimating that at least 1.5 million. Over time, when we get across all of the adoptions, it's gonna clearly exceed that, but that's what we've set aside for now. We have a reserve for economic uncertainties, and then the available, which is whatever is over and above all of our set-asides and reserves, is now just under $2 million. That helps us when we get to our multi-year projections, as we continue to deficit spend, or it gives us more flexibility as we look at the budget cuts that we need to make. Okay? And there is still a need to make further reductions, as we'll see in a minute. Next slide. This is just the one-time money. It's just a reminder. This year, 214 per ADA, 1.5 million. The governor's projecting in his proposal $48 per ADA, which is only 300,000, or a variance of 1.2 million. So we're losing 1.2 million in that one-time money. And I know that that 300,000 sounds like a lot, but the change in comparison.
Sounds like a utility.
Okay, to my personal budget, it sounds like a lot. But when you look at the changes he also proposed in the LCFF calculations, we actually lose roughly 300,000. So the net is actually pretty similar to what we were projecting at the first time. This loss of 1.2 million, just to remind you, we don't have 1.2 million in one-time expenditures attached to it. So when we lose the 1.2 million, or 1.5 million, because right now we don't even know if we're going to get the 300 for sure, we don't lose 1.2 million in expenditures, and that's part of the challenge. That's part of the imbalance of the budget that we're referring to.
Because we chose to just use it as part of our budget of ongoing expenses rather than literally spend it for one-time money.
Well, I think it's been a combination of things, and we're going to talk about the STRS and PERS increases in a minute. It's a combination of having all of these one-time monies from the state, because this governor has taken a very conservative approach to budgeting. In the past, prior administrations, they gave the money and assumed the revenues would come later from the state, and somehow we'd have these balanced budgets, and then we'd have years of huge surpluses, and then years of downturns, and they'd do budget cuts and then surpluses. This governor's approach, and it's probably a more reasonable one, is to say, in years of surplus, we're not going to give you ongoing money, we're going to give you one-time money. And so it's been a shift at the state level as well. And then couple that with the STRS and PERS increases that we're seeing. That's why we've got some deficits.
But to Phoebe's point, that we can't index that to ongoing expenses. One-time money, one-time expenses, that's what she's saying. So when you get that, you need to spend it on things that, if we get it for a year, then we can spend it in that year, but it can't obligate us for year two. Otherwise, that's when you run into that discrepancy.
Absolutely.
If they don't continue giving us the same amount of one-time funds.
And so another way of looking at that, you're absolutely right, another way of looking at it is to say, okay, what expenditures do we have in this year's budget that really should be one-time in nature and have to be reduced? And that's part of the conversation we're having. And when we get to the assumptions part of it, those are part of the assumptions we're making. They're not actions that have been taken, they're simply assumptions for these purposes, but they're important things to consider because we've got to come up with 1.2 million that's not going to be ongoing in the expenditures. So. Okay. So the cafeteria fund, I've talked about this a little bit. This just gives you some program highlights. The total revenues just under 2 million. Total expenditures 2.1 million. Remember, most of these revenues are federal revenues, so it's just kind of a point to make. We get a lot of federal revenue that supports our cafeteria fund. Our indirect, I mentioned that earlier, it's 2.91%. Our contribution has been reduced, so we're proud of that. And we have a projected ending fund balance of only 19,000, so it's not a lot. South County, so there's been a lot of conversation. Last time when we presented first interim, we presented information on our special ed budget, on transportation, on other types. Tonight, we're gonna present South County. So we've done a lot of analysis on South County. I thought I'd provide the board with an update. Federal preschool grants, $190,000. We do get a little bit of mandated cost at one time money, about $18,000. And by the way, we are spending that on iPads for the students. So we did associate one-time costs with this one-time money. Preschool state preschool grant, there's a small state piece of it. Our ADA transfers, we have students in these programs, they generate ADA, we transfer the revenue they generate over. A little bit of interest earnings, other fees. That relates to 2 districts that are not providing classroom space, have to pay $5,000. If they owe it but they don't provide it, they pay $5,000 per classroom. Other local revenues are just some small grants and donations that come in. The bill back to the districts, to other districts, and then bill back to Petaluma City Schools. So what is our portion versus what are the other districts and then Petaluma's portion? Again, these are just estimates. Here's the expenditure. We have salaries, we have employee benefits, materials and supplies. That non-capital equipment, you'll see, matches that one-time revenue. Other operating expenditures, which is where some of the non-public agency fees and stuff come in. The other facilities fees is actually every district that provides a space, I'm sorry, it was opposite. If you owe a space you don't provide, you pay $10,000. If you provide a space, you get $5,000. So this $70,000 is for the 14 classrooms that the districts are providing. And Petaluma, I think we provide 8 classrooms that we're getting a chunk of this money. So it's an expense in our budget, but part of it actually pays us back for our participation.
Who's covered under salaries?
That is the special day class teachers, it's RSP, it's speech, it's psychs, it's instructional assistants, it's our director's salary, her support staff, other program managers, so that's all of the South County salaries for everybody who's hired by South County and is not a non-public agency. Number of pupils, 120. What is our bill up? So here's the big question. Is it worth it? Should we be doing South County? We are just under, in our calculations, and this number will fluctuate, this 29,122, it's, you know, when I look at it, depending on what day I'm looking at it, because the budget fluctuates, it's under 30,000. So it's under 30,000 per student, assuming 120 students, that's as of December. The more students, the more cost effective it is per student, right? Because our costs aren't going up, but our pupil count will go up as of April. SCO is charging for their moderate to severe program $41,025 per student. This is costing us under $30,000 per student. So is South County a cost-effective way for us to serve our moderate to severe programs? Yes, it is, according to this. And the other because the options are, those students have to be served in a setting. We either offer the program, or we put them in SCO programs, or we put them in non-public school placements, both of which are more expensive than what we're able to do here at South County.
But are we really serving them?
I believe we're providing them with a great program. And the most important thing, well, not the most, but another important piece is we're not driving them all the way to Santa Rosa or to Windsor or to wherever else the South County classes are happening.
And is that 120, is that counted in our ADA as well?
South County is part of this. So yes, the 120 is part of the 7447 that I referred to.
Can I just comment, the schools that they're getting the ADA for the feeder schools, but then they're crediting us for that part. We're paying the 29,000 whatever, but then we get credited for the ADA, so that you don't just get to keep it.
So if Two Rock has 1 student and their fee is 29,000, I'm trying to do easy math here.
Okay.
Yeah, we like the easy math, Mary, you know that.
I like that too.
So if they have 4 students and it's 120,000, but they're getting 3.81 ADA times our rate, they get credited against their 120. So they don't write us a check for 120, they write us a check for the difference. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. It's an important piece to remember. And the same thing with us. I mean, it's the same way with us. But I just thought I would present the South County information. We have it, and we've kind of taken a look at it. So, okay. This is the STRS, and I know this is the kind of slide that we don't want to look at, but this is the state teacher's retirement. I just put it back up because I think it's important for us to remember. that these costs are going up pretty dramatically. And the rates are on the right-hand side, 8.25 to 19.1. And I've adjusted to take South County out of this, so this is reflective of just Petaluma. Go to the next slide. This gives you the overall estimate. These are round numbers, because I can't predict exactly what 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20 will look like, because it'll depend on the actual salaries and positions we have. But you can see our estimated overall annual increase. We will be paying $4.2 million more in 2021 than we paid in 13-14 if everything stayed the same. So our
That's
annual.
just dollar for dollar out of the general fund? Jeez.
Now go to the next slide.
So the state just shifted that to us, basically.
Right, now this is PERS, that's STRS, this is the PERS piece. So PERS is harder for me to predict, and it's actually, the historical rate was 13.02, but it was, it's kind of a misleading rate, because there were many years it was 0% because the investments were so high. But the state recaptured that savings through the revenue limit transfer that there was. But so it fluctuated from year to year, but historically, overall, it was 13.02. In 15-16, it was 11.847. This year, it's 13.888, which represents a 2.041% increase. So it went up over 2% last year this year. And that's about $235,000. So that's in addition to the $600,000 increase we're seeing in STRS. So the combined increase last year to this year was over $800,000 between just these two factors. And then I say projected here in 17, 18 and beyond because these rates are not in law yet. They're estimates. They're what PERS is estimating they'll be. And actually this is an old estimate. Because they're adjusting their expected confidence level in their interest earnings, PERS, the PERS board, they're actually projecting that the rate could go as high as 24%.
And that they're going to add as an extension beyond 2021.
Right. So when we say, why do we have a problem, and I've said at the budget advisory, this is not because of, we're not in this situation because of any kind of necessarily poor decision-making that's happened in the past. We're in this situation because we have some declining enrollment and because we're getting hit by over $800,000 per year of student PERS increases that 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we could not have predicted.
Right.
No one could have predicted this.
Well, it's because the state just pushed it on us.
Yeah, so anyway, those are just estimates, but I wanted you to see the economy of scale for PERS as well. So when we get to the multi-year projections, I have to project that there's going to be roughly $835,000 more each year in our employment costs or employee benefit costs, just because of STRS and PERS. So going down, okay. Multi-year projections, so in the multi-year projections, which are under the supplemental tab, I just want to show you where they are because we'll probably go to supplemental information tab in your binder. Supplemental information, go to page 133. 133, B133, no, 133. So here's our multi-year projections, and these are some of the highlights of what we've done. So we're assuming, for these purposes, that our enrollment's going to go down 100 students next year, which represents a decline of 9688. That's assuming every student shows up 96% of the time, or they're not in class 4% of the time. We're using dartboard calculations, which are in your binder. So we're reducing our LCFF by roughly 300, but our interest earnings are going up a little bit because interest rates are increasing. That was another thing in the spreadsheets that I didn't highlight, but I increased our interest earnings projections as well for this year. We're looking at redoing some leases. We're looking at eliminating some one-time state funds. We talked about that $1.5 million. We're adding $300,000, the estimated $48 per ADA. We're increasing our special ed contribution. We're assuming $200,000 increase. Step and column, the STRS and PERS increases of roughly $800,000. That eliminate is supposed to be on the next line. It should say eliminate debt service of $345 and solar savings of $113. That's just for 17-18. Then go to the next slide. That continues on. Now here's all the various reductions. Now these are just assumptions. So these are not things that you've necessarily been asked to take action on, but for a certain set of assumptions for this purpose, we're saying if we make this set of assumptions, what do our multi-year projections look like? So we're saying eliminate the 1.0 district office admin position, administrative position, we talked about that. The 2.0, which is the accountant and the DO secretary, we've already captured those savings this year, but we're projecting those for next year as well. Reducing 3.0 FTE teachers. If we have 100 less students, we have 3 less teachers. Really, we should have 4 less teachers, but we know that teachers don't come in neat, students don't come in neat and tidy packages of 20, 24 to 1. So for these purposes, we're saying, okay, we probably can reduce 3 teachers. So that's due to declining enrollment. 2.0 for the TOSs, we've talked about some alt ed, some classified staff, one-time cost, that's the site carryover. So the sites had $481,000 in carryover that was one time. IT contracts, eliminate MiFIs. I had changed that to MiFIs, but this is an old version too. So eliminate MiFIs. So that's one of the things in this year's budget. We had $150,000 to provide MiFIs. We think that we can come up with a better plan for that. Election costs, that's one time, $39,000, and then other costs of roughly $30,000. And then assuming we take an additional $400,000 to be determined, we don't know what that looks like, over and above what we've just listed. So if you take those assumptions and you look back at page 133, so this takes into account all of that stuff. Look at column C.
Including the additional 400.
Including the additional, I'll point that out. Look at column C. So the revenues go down. And I'm sorry. The revenues go from, I'll read that. The revenues go from 54.3 in 16-17 to 52.8 in 17-18. So they go down. That's that 1.5 plus declining enrollment. We're adding in 260 for step and column assumptions, minus the 624, so that's the TOSAs, the 3 FTE for declining enrollment, the administrative position, and the alt ed positions, minus 34,000, which is some of the classified. Taking out all of those things, and then see under column line 10, column B, C, excuse me, that negative 400,000 adjustment. That's the 400,000 to be determined. You don't know what that is yet. And then see if you pan over to column E, that becomes $1 million. So that's saying the 400,000 needs to be ongoing, plus an additional 600,000 in 18-19. That's what eliminates our deficit spending. So that gets us to roughly zero, 15,000 and 41,000, which in a $85 million budget, $82 million budget is not very much money. So that gets us to almost equal revenues and expenditures.
By the end of 18-19.
Yes.
400,000.
And another million.
And another million. That's assuming that nothing comes out of the sky from Edmund G.
Or Betsy DeVos.
And remember, that's because we're in declining
We won't even
enrollment.
have public schools anyways.
So we're in declining enrollment, so we're not getting much more money. We're taking the 1.5 million out.
Right.
We're capturing solar savings and debt savings and all of the other savings we talked about, but then we're putting 825,000 back in for stirs and perks.
I mean, that just always makes me nervous, that's all,
That was interesting. The meeting is getting more interesting. Other than that, then what we...
Can I ask a question about the election costs?
Dave, I'll pay your ticket for you.
Yeah, thanks for not taking it in front of us. Thanks
What
for
are
not.
election costs?
Good seeing you.
The election costs, we had to pay for elections.
We had to pay
We had to.
because it was
And the district has to.
so whenever there's a contested election, if it's not contested, if you have 2 seats open and 2 people are running, or if you have 3 seats and 3 people, there's like a $125 fee.
You always
But when there's a contested election.
How much did they cost us?
How much did they cost us?
39,000.
But that's
Take a check.
down.
Frank owes me.
But that's down from, because 3,
No, dinner.
when there's 3 seats up and it's contested.
Depends on what else is on the ballot. It's complicated how this goes back.
And when there's 3 seats up and 5 of us ran.
And why I'm confident with David here that our enrollment's gonna go up and not decline, David.
Right?
So remember, these are just based on a certain set of assumptions, and so, and when you look at the enrollment projections, And we've got to provide this to the County Office of Education, that those enrollment projections have to mirror what we're reflecting. And I can't say, oh, the enrollment projections show we're gonna have almost 100,000 less, oh, but we're gonna assume flat enrollment. So that's the challenge. We have to actually provide a budget that the county office has to certify.
Yeah. Well, it's better to.
I want to quickly go on to the next slide and then I'll answer.
She's got more.
So this is just summarizing the components of ending fund balance. I want to get to the deficit spending question because this has been raised, and I want to just clarify. So we talked about in 10, 11, and 11, 12, and the change in ending fund balance through 15, 16 is actual. So Sandra referred to looking back at unaudited actuals, and that's what these numbers refer to, is that we closed the books with a true deficit, i.e. we had less money coming in than we had more money going out than we had coming in. 15, 16 is an anomaly because we had all this, we had 3.7 million of one-time money. And so when you back that one-time money out, our ongoing expenditures exceeded our ongoing revenues by over $1 million, and to the point to where the auditor actually put an audit finding in our audit for last year, talking about last year's deficit. So even though, when you look at it on paper, when you look at it on paper, it looks like it. And so Sandra's right, when she looks at unaudited actuals, yeah, it looks like, oh yeah, they're not deficit spending. But when you drill down and you actually say, are they deficit spending ongoing money versus ongoing expenditures? We really are. And then the same thing for this year, I've taken and done the same conversion for 16, 17. If you take that 488,000 that was in the spreadsheet, and you back out the 1527, and then you add in the one-time site, because that was one time, all of that site money that I said that I have to add that back in to be fair, we have deficit spending of 630,000. So the true in this year, what are ongoing revenues versus what are ongoing expense. We've adjusted it for one-time revenues, we've adjusted it for one-time expenditures, it's over 600,000. So yes, we've made a dent, we've made good progress, but we're not there yet when you back out those one-time revenues.
Well, so another way to look at it is when you look at that the assumption is based on a $400,000 cut next year and $1 million cut. If we don't do that, then we continue hoping that we get one-time money and masking one with one-time money, and then going to the next year hoping we get $1 million of one-time money and masking that, and we still haven't addressed the structural deficit because we can't get to any compensation. Because we're still dealing with, trying to take one-time money and pay for ongoing expenses.
But fiscal prudence and good business practice dictate we don't just do 1.4. You got to go a little bit beyond that. You got to get ahead of it. Okay, otherwise you're always chasing it. You see what I'm saying? You're chasing. You're always so. You want to actually get ahead of it so you can create a surplus situation, which allows you to have more stability.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, we want to get to a place where we can actually offer compensation increases. Yeah. So this doesn't even get us to the point where we can offer ongoing compensation increases, which is ultimately our goal is to have competitive salaries. And so, but it does give good progress, and certainly far more progress than we've made in the prior years. So, and I want to just remind us, it's the 400,000 plus that laundry list of assumptions in reductions. And so.
But you can do hold forwards if you think all of a sudden revenue will be increasing and the state's going to wave its magic wand and create more money for us. But when you see the trends like they are now, you really have to kind of get out in front of it.
The biggest question mark for these assumptions is going to be how good of a job, what is the impact with all of the marketing and recruitment and getting out there that the district staff, David in particular, but also our principals, and others are out there doing to get the word out about the amazing programs that Petaluma City Schools have. So,
and I think it's important
absolutely
that the bond money and whatever money that can't go to compensation legally, like the bonds, that we use that money, to replace the pool, the track and field, to make our schools look as great as they possibly can and provide the programs. But in doing that, we have to make sure people understand. People understand, I know you understand, but other people understand, you just got a pool, but you can't give a rate. Well, consortium money for salaries, people need to
we need to make sure they know why that's money that can't go for a raise legally, so they know that we're not just choosing to choose over our teachers or our staff. Is this
Chris,
yours?
one thing that occurred to me, I mean, I think, don't we have a sunset on our parcel tax, isn't it? We have a,
We don't.
It goes on forever.
And we don't have a sunset. It
Wow.
does not have, it's in perpetuity, it does not have
okay,
a sunset date.
okay, because I was thinking if that
That's
comes up,
impressive.
I was thinking if that comes up, we've got another issue.
However,
The problem is, the challenge becomes, there's also no inflation built into the parcel tax.
There's no inflation index?
There's no inflation index, and so we have a flat amount of money, 1.9 million, but our costs for stirs and pers and step and column and everything else are going up, and most of what's supported in there. So what we can do with the parcel tax is going to shrink over time,
Right.
because our revenues are, the good news is our revenues are stable,
Oh my God.
but that creates other challenges.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I just want to make sure we're sensitive to that, because if it has a sunset clause on it, we better,
I can't tell you how many
But it doesn't,
parcel tax campaigns I've participated in.
right, you know how it
Yes.
goes.
I do.
Every
So I want to
6
just point out a few other things that are in the binder, not for me to go through in detail unless you really want me
No,
to.
this is really well done, point it out, you can
No,
be proud
this
of
is
it.
great.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of supplemental information, but in particular, starting on page 149, is the criteria and standards, and that really does a more in-depth analysis of our
Sorry, what page?
trends. Page
149.
149. It's 26 very stimulating pages of data.
Sure, you'll read them tonight, I know.
Always reading.
So anyway, I just wanted to point it out, that it is here for your reading pleasure. There are some technical checklist issues, but nothing is material or significant. It actually has to do with the accounting function that most committees adopt. So with that, I think we can present this to you with a recommendation of a positive certification, because we will be able to meet our fiscal obligations both this year and for 2 subsequent years. And we would also recommend continuing that the Budget Advisory Committee and the Local Control Accountability Committee continue to grapple with affordability and how we make a recommendation ultimately to the board in May that yes, these are truly reductions that need to be made. And just one last point, we've also provided all of our principals with a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you to David for assisting me in getting that for them, to present to their staffs, to start collecting feedback that's going to be presented to the Budget Advisory Committee. I think it's March 28th, I think it's the next meeting. So that's out there happening as well.
So, I know, I understand that the budget committee meetings, just like LCAP, are on the district calendar, but Lord help me if there isn't a lot on the calendar. So if I email Donna Bryans, will she put me on her, because like when you sent me yesterday, Mary, and I said, when's the next LCAP meeting? And then you sent your reminder, like, it's Thursday. Used to be that something that was the same week was actually, I knew it was going on this week. I am on like a 24-hour rotation at this point. So I'd love to be added to a reminder email list of the, because I couldn't make the last one.
It's
for
on the
kindergarten.
30th. The next one's on the 30th of March, Thursday. And I will definitely email Donna, and she's happy to put you on the email list. Yes.
It's a budget.
So it's March 30th
At 3:30.
here?
Yes.
So,
And
Chris,
that's a budget meeting or no?
Budget advisory.
does,
Can we come to that?
is
Yeah,
there,
if there's less than two or less members. I don't know that we can have all
No.
3 of you.
I need to go.
But 2 members.
You two will have to Rochambeau.
No, I'll go.
Okay.
is everybody getting the message that we have to sell this district? I mean, really, our revenue source is the students, and we just need to sell it. And not just with amenities, but with spirit and attitude and kind of a, you know, we have a lot of programs. We've been, Carrie, you've been doing a great job of hyping and graduation rates and all of our different, you know, small necessary learning communities and the different programs we have, whether it's CTE or whatever we have. We really got to collectively sell it, promote it. And, I mean, that's the environment we're in.
And I think that you're going to see, continue to see a lot of work in that arena, getting the word out there, but also we're trying to focus on the projects this summer that we're gearing up for curb appeal, and trying to do some of that too, because you can have great programs on the inside, but if it doesn't look great from the outside, it's harder to know. So that's part of what we're doing as well.
One of the things that occurred to me, just kind of like we did with solar, right? We spent a good chunk up front, because we knew over 20 years we were going to see the kind of savings you're showing there that'll more than pay for itself. And something we may want to consider is a PR position. Where we have David, but I mean, a PR position, he's our communications guy, but
Oh,
couple
no,
of
that's
things.
it.
No, but I mean, he's got a lot to do, creating websites and stuff, but I mean, let me finish, like an outreach, somebody who actually goes out and actively, I don't know how, Gary, where that recruiting line is, but somebody who really goes out, and David can do it fine, but I mean, he's got plenty to do with, I mean, he's here at 10 o'clock at night. So, I mean, I don't know where David's gonna, how he's gonna wear his pom-poms. But my point
Are you
is,
signing up for that position?
my point is, Chris, maybe something considered. Just if you come across a way or you see some other districts are doing it, because that's just where we're at.
I think that there's a lot of work happening in that arena, and I think part of it is getting the message out for our own people that this is important.
We're in conversation with some different school sites about some ideas that the schools have programmatically. So we want to see let them go run with some of their ideas, and let's see what they come up with, because I think that there's some possibilities there that will require some money to support that.
And we do have a major, I mean, the counseling presentation tonight alone was an example of the amazing things that are happening in our schools.
And getting that message out, like parents would love to know that.
But
Thought they
I
could
still want
send
to
to their
carry
kids.
for David. One of the things I want to say though is, we were talking about this, but what's happening in the classroom is really a key thing, because we could sell all the sizzle with the district, but if it's not taking place in the classroom with our teachers, then we're just blowing smoke at people. But I want the teachers to understand, this board is really committed to doing wherever we can to increase compensation. We know that's really important, but we got to get to a point where we can do so, and it's not just one-time money that we're throwing at it, that we're doing something with the budget that will make it attractive for people to stay here and bring on people at the other end of it, to begin their careers, because it's a good place to work. So at the heart of all this budget discussion, it's going to go back to you guys. It really is, because that's where it happens. It happens in the classroom. And I know my colleagues believe the same thing.
We have non-money issues in the contract that are spelling out that there is no respect for us, and we're feeling that very strongly.
And it's pretty hard for us to sell to our colleagues to do more with less when they're not feeling it. So it gets really, really tough to explain. I would say your better bet, my own thoughts, is to start putting together volunteers with parents who are happy, and start using those people to do promotion and marketing. The fastest way to get to everybody is the internet and all those lovely little social sites.
Sure.
You can fund it your accountants side by side. And the teachers are overwhelmed.
Just be careful what volunteers you bring.
Exactly.
Well, those would be my people.
No, PTAs can go be cheerleaders easily.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna move on, guys.
Thank you.
12.2.
Well done. Thank you.
Educational Services 12.2.1, amended board policy, first reading for updated BP 6145, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. And I think you discussed this the last two meetings, but if you want to
I really want to
talk
go
more.
over this word by word.
Yeah.
Right now.
We finally got it cleaned up, Cliff, good job.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Comments?
No.
All right. Okay, we actually have to return to closed session.
5 minutes.
We get to.
5 minutes. I can keep.
We will not have anything to report out. Continuation. Thank you. So on that note, back to closed session quickly.